Chapter 67. In the secret room, the young man's body was surrounded by flames. Lin Muyu's forging dragon bone remnant scroll had been cultivated to the third realm, rebirth. This also meant that after the bone tempering, his bone marrow was slowly regenerating, and the regeneration of his bone marrow would reshape his bloodline. In fact, his bloodline had already begun to silently transform, and even he himself could feel it. Now, when he cultivated, the speed at which his qi circulated in his bloodline could be said to be a world of difference compared to the past. His instantaneous explosive power had also been greatly enhanced. After the reshaping of his bloodline, whether it was speed or strength, they were completely new. Slowly opening his eyes, he stretched his arms and then walked to the stone door. He wolfed down the dinner that the servant had brought and continued to cultivate. Keng. The burning prairie sword was unsheathed. Under the infusion of qi, the sword's blade slowly emitted a fiery light. This long sword from Yi Liang was indeed a treasure. The wind-riding sword technique flowed like water. With his talent and comprehension, he had already mastered the technique. In fact, Lin Muyu's current swordsmanship was considered to be above average. Unless he encountered a top-notch expert with extraordinary swordsmanship, he would still be able to withstand 1 or 2 blows from her. Pa pa pa! Lightning surged on the blade of the sword. With a low shout, he instantly unleashed a lightning strike. The blade of the sword and the lightning split the air into 2. The speed was so fast that it even created a temporary vacuum in the path of the slash. The feeling of the air being compressed was very strong. Yangqiu's ferocious smile appeared in his mind, and his sword art gradually became a little messy. He thought of Yangqiu's secret art, myriad sword art. It was an ability to use qi to control the sword, and it was considered the best sword art. Unfortunately, he knew nothing about it. He suddenly smiled as he thought of the mysterious owner of the Wanxing weapon shop, the Sword Elder. It was obvious that the Sword Elder was also an extraordinary swordsman. His mastery of using qi to control the sword seemed to be above that of Ouyangqiu and Zhenfang. If that was the case, perhaps learning the Sword Elder's imperial sword technique was also a way to become stronger. However, the Sword Elder had an eccentric personality and was obsessed with collecting swords. He might not be willing to teach him the sword technique. The way of the sword was ever-changing, but if one couldn't master controlling the sword with qi, it would always be a pity. After all, when it was necessary in battle, controlling the sword with qi could play an amazing role. Forget it, I'll go back to the Sword Elder and test him. After practicing the wind-riding swordsmanship 5 times in a row, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief and returned to the stone bed to cultivate his jinqi. The jinqi in his body was still not strong enough. Outside the window, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. In the blink of an eye, it was almost midnight. Rustle! With a soft sound, he opened his eyes and looked towards the stone door. There seemed to be a flash of qi. Could it be that Grandpa Lei Hong had come to spy on his cultivation again? Thinking of Lei Hong, Lin Muyu felt angry and funny at the same time. In fact, Lei Hong was more like a naughty child. He was happy to bet with his peers like Chu Chu and Gu Yang, and he also took special care of Lin Muyu. Although Zhang Xian was almost injured during the day, it was not Lei Hong's fault. Lei Hong was the great deacon of the temple and one of the 6 white-robed royal guards of the Qin Empire. Naturally, he would strictly uphold the laws of the empire. Lin Muyu came from a civilized society, so he would naturally be angry. However, in the eyes of Zhang Wei, Qin Xiling, and Lei Hong, an instructor killing a sparring partner and a noble killing a commoner seemed to be a very normal thing. Thinking of this, Zhang Xian began to understand Grandpa Lei Hong. He closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. The true qi in his body slowly flowed through his veins. Even the naked eye could see the faint image of a fiery red true dragon circling around his body. Unknowingly, his veins were being tempered and reshaped again and again. Of course, Lin Muyu was still unaware of the changes that were happening to him. He completely relaxed his mind and allowed the true qi to circulate within his body. Another huge advantage of the dragon forging bone remnant scroll was unlimited cultivation. Every time the true qi circulated within his body, his strength would increase by a little. Repeating this process, as long as he continued to cultivate according to the mental cultivation method, his strength would naturally become stronger and stronger. Just as he was about to enter a state of deep sleep, the voice of the female elf official Lulu suddenly sounded in his ears. "Big brother, be careful." Suddenly, a chill came from above his head. Lin Muyu was startled awake from his cultivation. An endless killing intent came from above. Without thinking, he turned sideways and rolled off the stone bed. Flames surged behind him. The attacker's sword directly pierced through the stone bed, splitting it into pieces. Wang Weng, Lin Muyu quickly summoned his martial spirit. As if facing a great enemy, he released the dragon scale wall, mystic tortoise shell, and all the other martial spirit skills. He opened his palm and pulled out the burning prairie sword. Under the instigation of his true chi, the burning prairie sword emitted a strong fiery light, illuminating everything in front of him. The attacker did not say anything. He raised his sword and launched another attack. Ho! His martial spirit was a fox. However, it was not Tang Xiaoxi's fire fox. Instead, it was a kind of fox with black fur. It was extremely sinister and soundless. This also made Lin Muyu suddenly realize why he was caught off guard and did not sense this person's aura. So it was the advantage of his innate martial spirit. This person's martial spirit could conceal his own aura. 5 consecutive sword flowers bloomed. In an instant, 5 sword thrusts erupted. This person's sword was too fast. However, after Lin Muyu had gone through the bone tempering and marrow cleansing, even his eyesight had improved a lot. He could see clearly. With a shake of the burning prairie sword, Keng King King, he deflected 3 attacks. The remaining 2 were all eaten by the mystic tortoise shell. Pu-piu, 2 holes appeared on the mystic tortoise shell. Lin Muyu also felt a pain in her chest. The moment she came into contact with the sword, her martial spirit had already been injured. But, with a low roar, countless gourd vines drilled out from the cracks of the stone and attacked the opponent. The attacker clearly had extraordinary skills. He did not retreat. His long sword was filled with the luster of Do Qi. With a loud roar, the sword light wreaked havoc, engulfing the surroundings and chopping all the gourd vines into pieces. After Lin Muyu attacked, the angle of the lightning strike's attack was actually seen through. It was directly blocked. The attacker smiled complacently. With a swing of his sword, the steel sword actually produced a suction force. It brought the burning prairie sword downwards while it swept the sword in the air. Lin Muyu hurriedly lowered her head. A chill swept past the top of her head, even cutting off a few strands of her hair. Damn, this person's sword was fast and fierce. She held the burning prairie sword tightly and retreated. She used the falling star steps to dodge, but behind her was a field of coldness. The attacker's fierce sword landed on the mystic tortoise shell. The mystic tortoise shell finally broke. Sword domain. Amidst the attacker's low roar, the ground under Lin Muyu's feet seemed to have become a purgatory abyss. Streaks of sword chi wreaked havoc in the surroundings. It was as if millions of sword chi were waiting for her next move. If she was the slightest bit careless, she would end up being dismembered by tens of thousands of swords. This was probably a higher level of using chi to control the sword, right? In this desperate situation, Lin Muyu stepped on the ground with one foot and leaped up. While in the air, she dodged the sword chi attack and raised her hand to throw a flying dagger. Using a hidden weapon to attack? Despicable! The attacker dodged the demonic noise dagger, but the sword domain was also broken. Sword chi absolute track. He let out a low roar and loosened the hand holding the sword. The long sword flew over quickly, bringing with it streaks of sword chi. The secret room was too small, and Lin Muyu had no way to dodge. He quickly opened his hand, and countless green vines rose up to form a barrier. At the same time, he used the remaining true chi to form the dragon scale wall. Bang, bang, bang. Amidst the violent sound, the opponent's sword chi instantly shattered the dragon scale wall's defense. Puchi. The long sword pierced through his shoulder. Lin Muyu took a few steps back, and blood spurted out. He had been at a disadvantage. His burning prairie sword couldn't even touch a hair of his opponent. This was the brilliance of the sword control technique. It killed people from 10 meters away, and it didn't give the opponent any chance. Ha! The attacker laughed proudly and took off his mask, revealing a thin face. He mocked. I was wondering who that Lin Muyu was. Now that I think about it, he's just SOSO. You should die contentedly under my sword. As he spoke, he opened his hand, and an invisible force drove the sword back. But Lin Muyu suddenly opened his hand, and the true chi of the dragon scale wall lingered around his fingers. He forcefully grabbed the edge of Zhong Sui's sword. Under the skin tempering and bone tempering, his bones were surprisingly hard, and he didn't feel much pain. He suddenly pulled back and shouted, "Do you still want to take back your weapon?" Zhong Sui's eyes turned cold. What a lunatic! He flew forward, grabbed the hilt with one hand, and activated his Do Chi. Suddenly, the long sword began to flip, and the invisible sword chi raged, shredding the skin of Lin Muyu's left hand inch by inch. Instantly, it was a bloody mess. But what Lin Muyu wanted was just this one chance. Voila! A purple flame scuttled on the burning prairie sword, true dragon vital fire. When Lin Muyu attacked with a vigorous aura, Zhong Sui's eyes were filled with disdain. Because in his eyes, Lin Muyu's attack didn't have any technique, and it even looked very clumsy. Even a 10-year-old child could do this. Ha! With a shout, 3 chi armors condensed in front of his chest. Zhong Sui mocked, "Come on, kid." Roar! The true dragon vital fire lingered around the burning prairie sword. When the sword was less than 10 centimeters away from his chest, Zhong Sui suddenly felt something was wrong. It was a power that he had never experienced before, overbearing and vigorous. Pooh! The blade pierced through the chi armor, and the true dragon vital fire burned through his defense. It quickly pushed into his chest and pierced through Zhong Sui's heart. Killed in one strike. Zhong Sui's entire body was nailed to the stone wall by Lin Muyu's sword. His eyes were filled with endless fear and unwillingness. Before he died, he looked at Lin Muyu and muttered, "For you." Lin Muyu said indifferently, "Are you sent by Zhenfang?" "Yes, then you can die." The true dragon vital fire was activated, and it directly burned Zhong Sui's heart into charcoal. Chapter 68. It was a pity that Zhong Shuxi's swordsmanship and Do Chi were above Lin Muyu's, but he had underestimated his opponent and underestimated Lin Muyu's ability to counterattack. In the end, he was killed by true dragon essence fire. Lin Muyu softly leaned against the bed and took out a bottle of healing medicine and poured it on the wound. She didn't call for help and just sat there to recover her energy. She had to quickly heal the wound, or else it would be terrible if there were any internal injuries left. In the morning, the holy temple was in an uproar. A top-notch assassin had infiltrated the holy temple to assassinate a Venus training partner and was instead killed by the training partner. This news quickly spread throughout the holy temple and even more than half of the imperial capital. This was no small matter. What kind of place was the holy temple? It was the symbol of the empire's strongest power. Now, someone actually dared to enter the holy temple to kill someone. This was simply too daring. Pang! Lei Hong's palm landed on the blue embossed table. His face was full of anger as he faced a group of deacons, instructors, and training partners. His voice was abnormally cold as he said, "The holy temple is heavily guarded. Just who let this assassin in?" Zheng Fang stood there expressionlessly. Gu Yang said, "Great Deacon, we have found out. This assassin is called Zhong Shuxi and is a notorious bounty hunter in the Lanyan city. As long as he is given enough Jin-in coins, he is willing to do anything. This Zhong Shuxi even said that as long as someone can pay a sky-high price, he would dare to infiltrate the Zetian temple and take the emperor's head, the radiant king's head. Simply too daring." Lei Hong's face was ashen. Zhong Shuxi infiltrated the holy temple to kill someone. This was simply challenging his authority as the lord of the holy temple. Investigate thoroughly. The holy temple's walls are very high and there are guards at night. It is impossible to climb over the walls. Zhong Shuxi must have been brought in by one of our own. Investigate thoroughly who brought someone in yesterday. Gu Yang cupped his fists and said. At this time, Zhang Wei turned to Zheng Fang and said with a smile, "Oh, at dusk yesterday, I saw the young marquis bringing a few servants into the holy temple. I don't know if I saw wrongly." Zheng Fang's face turned cold. "Zhang Wei, what do you mean? Are you suspecting me?" "I wouldn't dare." Zhang Wei cupped his fists. This subordinate was just thinking of this matter and did not mean anything. The little marquis is an open and candid person, a man of honor and righteousness. I, Zhang Wei, have no doubt about the little marquis character. It is absolutely not the little marquis who wants to kill Lin Ji. Zhen Fang's face was extremely ugly, alternating between green and white. Everyone in the Divine Temple knew that Zhen Fang wanted to kill Lin Ji, so he was the biggest suspect. Moreover, a bounty assassin like Zhong San could only be hired by a high official or noble like Zhen Fang. Zhang Wei was born a commoner, so he naturally stood on Lin Ji and Little Beansprout's side. In fact, he was so hot-blooded that he didn't even care about his own safety. In this world, the only thing he wanted was to be happy. Raham said coolly, "No need to argue. I'll investigate this matter personally. Once I find the culprit, I won't let them off lightly. The Holy Temple is the symbol of the Empire's power, and it cannot be blasphemed by vile people." The group of people cupped their fists. "Yes, Grand Deacon. Then let's disperse." After everyone dispersed, Raham called out to Lin Muyu, "Lin Ji, wait a moment." "Grandpa Raham, what's the matter?" He stopped and asked. "How's your forging dragon bone remnant scroll recently? Are your injuries serious?" Raham asked with concern. Lin Muyu's heart warmed, and he smiled awkwardly. "I don't know how my cultivation is going, but it should be considered as a small success. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to kill this Zhong San. And I've checked Zhong San's wound, it was a one-hit kill. You must have used your own body as bait, otherwise this kind of bounty assassin who kills people like flies would not have been defeated so easily." "Yes, Grandpa Raham. I was too lazy, I was cultivating last night, so I didn't go to your place. It's all right, I can protect myself." Lin Muyu smiled confidently. "That's good, go." "Yes." Because of his injuries, Gu Yang gave him 3 days of rest, which made Lin Muyu feel like a fish in water. He just wanted to use these 3 days to do something. He went out and went straight to the direction of Wanxing Weapon Shop. Next, it was time to ask the Sword Elder to teach him the Imperial Sword technique. But he didn't go far. Suddenly a horse galloped from afar. The horse was a beautiful girl in a green dress, about 18 years old, and she was extremely beautiful. She shouted from afar, "Excuse me, are you Master Lin Ji?" "N." Lin Muyu stopped. "Who are you?" The girl turned over and dismounted, her hands lightly clasped on her lower abdomen, and bowed to do a standard imperial lady's bow. She smiled and said, "My name is Jin Xiaoteng. I'm Jin Ziju's daughter from the Imperial Medicine Shop. Hee, I'm also the deputy leader of the Imperial business. Master, the auction for the Peak of Dreams that you consigned to the medicine shop has been completed. I'm here to find you." "Oh, it's Miss Jin." Lin Muyu beamed. In his eyes, this Jin Xiaoteng had turned into a gold-plated beauty. She was here to give him money. Jin Xiaoteng was very polite. She smiled and bowed, saying, "Master Lin, the 5 bottles of Dream of Extreme Peak that you sold were sold for 4,500, 5,200, 5,400, 5,500, and 5,700 gold coins. After deducting 20% of the transaction fees, you will receive 21,040 gold coins. Dad said that since this is the first time we are working together, he will give you a round figure of 22,000 gold coins. Here are 22 diamond coins, please count them, Master." She raised a golden pouch which was filled with 22 diamond coins. Lin Muyu's heart leaped with joy as she felt like a nouveau riche. This feeling was amazing. After accepting the bag, Lin Muyu said happily, "Thank you, Miss Jean." Jin Xiaoteng shook her head with a smile and took out a bright, transparent card from her bosom. She said, "Since the transaction has exceeded 20,000 Jin dollars, according to the rules of the trading house, this diamond card is a gift to you. Customers with a diamond card can enjoy a 30% discount on purchases in the Imperial Trading House and a 10% commission on sales. In addition, the diamond card has a balance of 10,000 genin dollars and an overdraft limit of 50,000 genin dollars. This card is specially infused with the power of a spirit beast to control the amount, so it can be used in any large trading house. Please accept it, master. Lin Muyu accepted the card, but her heart was as clear as a mirror. She smiled and said, I'm afraid a mere transaction of 20,000 gold coins is not enough to get this card, right? Jean Shouting burst into laughter and said with a smile, Master is indeed smart. Actually, only a transaction of 500,000 gold coins can get a diamond card, but Master is a little special. Why am I special? Because you are the only person who can refine dream of the extreme. You are the only one in the world of alchemy. As she spoke, Jean Xiaoteng bowed again and said with a smile, Master Lin Ji, if you can refine dream of the extreme, please put it up for auction in our trading house first. Xiaoteng guarantees that you will not suffer a loss. I see. Lin Muyu smiled slightly and said, All right, I will. Thank you, Miss Xiaoteng. You're welcome. I'll be leaving then. Goodbye. Jean Xiaoteng spurred her horse and left. Lin Muyu held the heavy 22 diamond coins in her hand, and all sorts of feelings welled up in her heart. The feeling of being rich. But on second thought, he thought of the pitiful little bean sprout. As a copper star sparring master, was his life only worth 500 gold yen coins? Wouldn't the 22 diamond coins in her hand be enough to buy the lives of 44 little bean sprout? Slightly sad, she took the money and went straight to the Wanxing weapon shop. When he arrived at the weapon shop, the shop assistant actually recognized him and said with a face full of smiles, Young hero, you are here. Our shopkeeper was right, young hero will definitely come again. How did Senior Sword Elder know that I would come again? First, young hero is a person who loves swords. Second, young hero is a person who uses swords. Young hero, please follow me, the shopkeeper is in the backyard. Thank you. When she saw the Sword Elder again, the old man was still hale and hearty. He stood alone in the backyard with his hands open, and a formless energy surged around him. It was this energy that gave him the ability to control swords. Senior. Lin Muyu bowed. As a member of the Holy Temple, it seemed that other forms of etiquette were not appropriate. The Sword Elder slowly turned around, and with a radiant face, he said with a smile, Young hero, we meet again. Last time you came to broaden your horizons, I wonder what you are here for this time? I want to learn from Senior the art of controlling swords with qi, Lin Muyu said respectfully. Learn swordsmanship? The Sword Elder could not help but smile and said, This old man has not taught for many years. Young hero, please go back. Lin Muyu was unmoved and said, There must be a reason for not teaching. This junior would like to hear the details. The Sword Elder felt a sense of novelty and said with a smile, All right then. As he said this, the Sword Elder put his hands behind his back, and sword energy surged around his body. His green robe slightly swayed, and he smiled. This old man is not willing to accept disciples for 3 reasons. First, I do not accept ordinary people as my disciples. Second, I do not accept people who are competitive. And third, I do not accept people who are not proficient in swordsmanship. Young hero, as long as you can break my 3 restrictions, I can consider accepting you as my disciple. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. This was really a strange old man, and the threshold for accepting disciples was quite high. After thinking for a while, he said, First, this junior does not think that I am an ordinary person. What do you mean? The so-called natural talent must be useful. Even if one is mediocre in life, they should be able to accomplish something. Not to mention, with my talent, I will inevitably have a magnificent achievement. If I were an ordinary person, I would not have come to ask the Sword Elder to teach me. What a good natural talent must be useful. The Sword Elder nodded in appreciation and said, You have passed the first point, and the second point, how do you prove that you are not a competitive person? Lin Muyu took a deep breath. The reason I want to become strong is because I do not want to see the many injustices in this world. I want to become strong because I want to change this world. Change this world? The Sword Elder could not help but laugh. Do you have the ability? Boy, I can try and exhaust my strength. Lin Muyu clenched her fist. Her eyes were firm and clear. Good. The Sword Elder laughed. This second point is considered as you have passed, but the third point, are you a person who is proficient in swordsmanship? This, Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. This junior has only learned some superficial swordsmanship. Show me. Yes. Chapter 69. A set of Imperial Wind Sword technique flowed down smoothly. When Lin Muyu sheathed her sword, the Sword Elder could be seen clapping his hands as he laughed. This third-rate sword technique seems to be useless. Lin Muyu was very embarrassed. Senior, I got this sword technique from a merchant. Got it? No wonder it's so crude. The Sword Elder's evaluation was merciless. Young hero, don't you have any other sword techniques? There's one more. Lin Muyu shouted. Her Zhen Qi surged up her arm and turned into a lightning bolt that flowed into the blade of her sword. She struck with the force of a thunderbolt. Cut. The lightning bolt cut through the air, leaving a beautiful trail in the air. It was the lightning strike. This time, the Sword Elder was a little surprised. He opened his eyes and laughed. This is a little interesting, but it's only one move. It's not a sword technique, and it's only a second-rate sword technique. Lin Muyu was a little unhappy. Senior, this is the sword technique that Senior Fire Cauldron Chu Chu taught me. Oh, Fire Cauldron Chu Chu's sword technique? The Sword Elder laughed and tears almost came out. This old man actually knows sword techniques? I only knew that Fire Cauldron Chu Chu's fist and palm techniques were the best in the world, but this old man actually knows sword techniques? Ha, no wonder he's so second-rate. Senior knows Grandpa Chu Chu. I don't know him. The Sword Elder stopped smiling and said, Young hero, you meet the first and second conditions, but I'm sorry, you don't meet the third condition. You don't even know the swordsmanship, so you should go back and practice. When you have some achievements in the future, you can come back to this old man to compare skills. How about it? Lin Muyu was a little unhappy. If I had already mastered sword techniques, then I wouldn't need to come here and be rejected by Senior. The Sword Elder couldn't help but laugh. Young hero is a very honest person. How about this? Young hero's foundation is not bad, but if you want to learn this old man's imperial sword technique, there is a condition. What condition? Bring me a godly weapon that I like. Lin Muyu was dazed. Does my Burning Prairie sword count? The Burning Prairie sword can only be regarded as a third-grade spirit-grade weapon. It can't be said to be a divine weapon. Young hero, you must bring at least a mysterious grade weapon that has been refined. What do you think? Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu nodded and said, Then, if I melt the Burning Prairie sword again, it will probably count, right? Reforging the Burning Prairie sword? The Sword Elder could not help but be dumbfounded. Could it be that you are also a blacksmith? I guess so. That's even better. If you really have the ability to reforge a mysterious grade weapon, I'll willingly teach you the sword control technique. How about it? This Sword Elder was indeed a person who was obsessed with swords. Lin Muyu said happily, Then wait for my good news, Senior. After returning to the temple, his secret room was rearranged. The stone bed was changed, and he could move in again. Although someone had died in this secret room, Lin Muyu did not care anymore. In this chaotic world, what was the death of a person? What? He took out the crafting cauldron. The huge cauldron occupied a few meters of space in front of him, and it let out a buzzing sound of energy. The cauldron was an energy body, not a real crafting furnace, but Lin Muyu believed that no crafting furnace in this world was as precious as the crafting cauldron. Holding the Burning Prairie sword in his hand, he spun the Burning Prairie sword in the crafting cauldron. Lin Muyu slowly closed his eyes, feeling the aura and beast soul of the Burning Prairie sword. The so-called crafting was a process of refining and refining, but first, he must be able to feel the structure and organization of the crafting object. This process lasted for about 10 minutes, and the burning prairie sword had already begun to be peeled off and analyzed in front of his eyes. There were still some impurities in the body of the sword, especially at the edge of the blade, which greatly affected the sharpness of the blade. No wonder it was only a spirit-grade weapon. There were a few factors that affected the grade of a weapon. The first was the raw material. Ordinary iron was destined to be unable to compare with fine iron, dark steel, and the like. It was even more incomparable to some precious godly metals. The second factor was the purity. The more impurities there were, the harder and more tensile the weapon would be. The third factor was the refined spirit. The stronger the refined beast spirit in the weapon, the stronger the weapon would be. Whoosh! With a soft sound, the female elf officer, Lulu, flew out of Lin Muyu's body. She was a supporting elf, and in this world, she was actually more like a guiding light for Lin Muyu. Without Lulu's help, he might not even know how to release the crafting cauldron. Big brother! Lulu flapped her wings and said with a smile, the basic material of this burning prairie sword is dark iron, which is a very good material. However, there are a lot of impurities, and the beast soul is not strong enough. Big brother can refine the excess impurities, but I can only upgrade the burning prairie sword to a spirit-grade weapon at most. If you want to upgrade it to the mysterious grade, you will need to change to a more powerful beast soul. Lin Muyu nodded. Then what do I need? You will need about 2 to 3 kilograms of dark iron and a spirit stone from a spirit beast. It must be at least a fire-type spirit stone that is more than 5,000 years old, or it will not be able to upgrade to the mysterious grade. Is that so? I got it. He was not in a hurry to refine it. If a worker wanted to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. He needed to prepare enough materials first. As for crafting, this was his old profession, so it was definitely not a problem. He went out and went straight to the Imperial Chamber of Commerce. These things had to be bought from the auction house. At this time, it was too late to go out of the city to look for spirit beasts in the dragon forest. Moreover, he most likely could not defeat spirit beasts that were more than 5,000 years old. Instead of wasting time, he might as well use the 22 diamond coins in his pocket to do something else. In the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, when Lin Muyu took out the diamond card, the shopkeeper immediately welcomed him with a smile. A distinguished guest is here. How may I help you? I want to see Miss Jean Xiaotang. Oh, I will go and call Miss Jean right away. Please wait for a moment. Thank you. A few minutes later, Jean Xiaotang, who was dressed in green, walked out of the back hall gracefully and said with a smile, Lin Ji, I did not expect that we would meet again so soon. Welcome to our Chamber of Commerce. How may I help you? I want to buy some materials. Oh, what do you need? Let's talk as we walk. The two walked side by side on the small path of the Chamber of Commerce. People were coming and going all around them. Lin Muyu said, I want 3 kilograms of dark steel. Jean Xiaotang blinked her eyes and said with a smile, It seems that Great Master wants to forge weapons? Yes. Then Xiaotang will choose some highly purified dark steel for Great Master. No need, I can purify it myself. Lin Muyu calculated carefully. The higher purity dark steel in the Chamber of Commerce would definitely be expensive. After all, this was a place where people would eat people without spitting out their bones. Jean Xiaotang was a little surprised. All right then, if Great Master does not mind the process of refining dark steel too complicated, what else do you need? Spirit stones. Oh, what kind of spirit stones do you need? Jean Xiaotang turned around with her hands behind her back and said with an exuberant smile, Our Imperial Chamber of Commerce may not have much else, but we have all kinds of spirit stones. Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, I need a spirit stone from a fire-type spirit beast that is more than 5,000 years old. Do you have it? More than 5,000 years old? Jean Xiaotang was startled. To be honest, spirit stones that are more than 3,000 years old are already very rare. As for 5,000 years old, let's go take a look, maybe we can find it? The two followed this path to the end and arrived at the spirit stone shop. Spirit stones were the crystallization of the spirit of wild beasts, also known as beast cores or beast cores. The chances of obtaining beast cores after killing spirit beasts were not very high, so spirit stones that were thousands of years old were very rare. Eldest Miss, a shopkeeper said respectfully. Jean Xiaotang nodded and asked, Shopkeeper Zhou, do you have fire-type spirit stones that are more than 5,000 years old? 5,000 years old? The shopkeeper was also startled, then looked at Lin Muyu beside Jean Xiaotang and said with a smile, Yes, we do, but it is not very cheap. We have a 9,000-year-old fire dragon spirit stone that has been the treasure of our shop for half a year. I wonder if young hero is willing to buy it? 9,000 years old? Lin Muyu was startled and said with a smile, It must be very expensive, right? It's all right. How much? 19,000 Jin coins will do. Good lord. Lin Muyu was stunned. She only had 22,000 Jin coins in total. This was the same as before the revolution. Jean Xiaotang seemed to read Lin Muyu's mind and said with a smile, Lin Ji, have you forgotten that you are a diamond VIP of the Chamber of Commerce and can enjoy a 30% discount? That will be more than 13,000 Jin coins. I will help you round off the odd numbers and make it 13,000 Jin coins. How about it? Do you want? Lin Muyu thought about it and nodded. All right, 13,000 it is. He took out 13 diamond coins and felt his heart ache. He could not buy the forbidden medicine's 7-colored lotus in the near future. Even if he was a member of the Holy Temple, he was actually overtaxed. If he bought it too often, it would not be good for him to be invited to the Minister of War's residence for tea. Therefore, he did not know when he would be able to refine the Peak of Dreams again. Soon, the shopkeeper handed over a plump fire flood dragon spirit stone to him. As he held it in his hand, it was boiling hot. After that, he bought one. 5 kilograms of dark iron. Although dark iron was rare, it was not that rare. Therefore, he only sold it for 10 Jin coins per kilogram. After some thought, he bought another 50 kilograms in one go and brought it back as a test subject. Because he had not forged weapons in this world, he needed some experience. He did not want to damage the burning prairie sword on his first try. He bought a few more spirit stones. They were all the hundreds of years old ones. They were cheap and practical. His longing for the art of weapon forging was like a young girl's yearning for love. By the time he returned to the Holy Temple, it was already dark. He hastily ate something and hid in a secret room to start forging weapons in secret. Chapter 70. Grandpa Lei Hong, don't peek. A rustling sound came from outside the stone door. Lin Muyu didn't need to look to know that Lei Hong was guarding her. Lei Hong laughed without blushing. You bought so much dark steel. Are you going to forge a weapon? It's a pity that you don't even have a furnace. Do you want me to get someone to bring one back for you? No need, just don't peek. All right, then focus on your cultivation. The footsteps faded away. Lei Hong had gone far away. Lin Muyu put down the dark steel and took out the artifact forging cauldron with one hand. The cauldron was surrounded by golden oracle bone inscriptions. This cauldron itself had been cultivated to the highest level. In this world, it was simply a treasure. She weighed the dark steel. The Empire's weapons were generally very heavy. Swords usually weighed between 10 to 20 kilograms. In the words of Zhang Wei and the others, weapons are not heavy, so it doesn't hurt to cut people. Presumably, with Zhang Wei's character, if he were to go to the modern world, he would probably carry a watermelon knife and cut people everywhere. She chose a piece of dark steel that weighed about 20 kilograms. With a casual toss, the dark steel floated in the artifact forging cauldron. After removing the impurities, there should be 15 kilograms left. A sword should be about 15 kilograms. After all, it wasn't some spear or saber with a long handle. Any one of them could be frighteningly heavy over 100 kilograms. She spat out her innate chi, and the flames in the artifact forging cauldron began to quickly melt the dark steel. The temperature was extremely high, and the speed of smelting was also very fast. In less than 5 minutes, the dark steel had been melted into a pile of fiery red liquid. The liquid flowed slowly in the artifact forging cauldron, controlled by an invisible force. Of course, the source of this force was Lin Muyu. Innate chi surged, and specks of starlight floated up from the liquid. Those were the parts that were produced by the intense burning of the impurities in the liquid. After smelting for about 10 minutes, the dark steel's purity had reached at least 99.5%. This was already very difficult. Lin Muyu had carefully looked at the excellent weapons in the weapon shop. In fact, the dark steel's purity was less than 90%. Now that the smelting process was complete, it was time for the spirit stones. Lin Muyu took out a spirit stone. It was a 700-year-old bluestone beast spirit stone. With a wave of her hand, the spirit stone fell into the core of the cauldron and was immediately engulfed by the raging flames. The process of refining spirit stones was very simple. The stronger one's strength, the faster the refining speed. Lin Muyu's strength was already very strong. It was at least far above that of a 700-year-old spirit beast. But at the moment when the spirit stone was completely melted, there was a sudden roar, and a green beast rushed out from the cauldron. It raised its sharp claws and pounced on Lin Muyu. Ha! He was stunned and hurriedly summoned his martial spirit. The moment the black tortoise shell appeared, the fierce beast's sharp claws surged on the black tortoise shell. His chest was slightly hot, but he wasn't injured. Lin Muyu let out a low shout, and true energy came out of her body, directly blasting the fierce beast's spirit into the crafting treasure cauldron. Roar, roar. Although the bluestone beast was roaring, its voice was getting smaller and smaller, and in the blink of an eye, it was annihilated in a pile of molten iron. The beast's spirit was officially refined. Lin Muyu's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and his heart was filled with lingering fear. He didn't think that the refining process would be so dangerous. The beast's spirit inside the spirit stone would actually counterattack the refiner. It was truly terrifying. At this time, he couldn't help but worry about the next step of weapon forging. If that 9,000-year-old fire flood dragon beast's spirit counterattacked, how would he be able to withstand it? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh. No wonder it was so difficult for the divine blacksmiths in this world to forge high-grade weapons. It turned out that there were so many requirements. Not only was there a requirement for blacksmiths, there was also a requirement for strength. It could be imagined that many divine blacksmiths had lost their lives to the beast's spirit counterattack. "Big brother, what kind of sword do you need?" Lulu asked with a smile. She was now Lin Muyu's weapon forging assistant. The artifact refining cauldron quickly transformed into hundreds of sword shapes. These were all custom-made plans by Lulu. Lin Muyu casually glanced at them and chose a standard shape. Then the artifact refining cauldron's power surged, and an invisible force condensed into the shape of a sword. The molten iron along with the beast's spirit slowly flowed into this invisible sword shape. Lin Muyu slowly released his true chi, and the artifact refining cauldron instantly cooled down. Puchi. The standard shape of the long sword fell into the pool at the side, stirring up streams of steam. After nearly half a minute, Lin Muyu reached out and took the long sword out. Holding it in her hand, she only felt that the sword light was cold. She smiled and said, "I still don't know how to distinguish the grade of a weapon." "Lu, do you know how?" The little elf puffed out her small chest and said with confidence, "Big brother, this is a 7th grade spirit grade weapon. Your first work is of the spirit grade. Not bad." "And that's good." Lin Muyu smiled with satisfaction. It seemed that as long as she cultivated hard, it wasn't impossible to become a generation of divine blacksmiths in this world. Even if she couldn't complete a divine weapon like Star, at least a mysterious grade weapon would be at her fingertips. She continued to forge 4 more swords. Among them, 3 were 7th grade spirit grade, and 1 was 6th grade spirit grade. After all, the materials weren't good enough, but it was still not bad. These black iron were all legendary 100-year black iron. They couldn't be considered precious and could only be forged at this level. Finally, it was time to reforge the Burning Prairie sword. She carefully placed the Burning Prairie sword into the crafting cauldron. However, the Burning Prairie sword was already a treasured sword, and it took a lot of effort to reforge it. After half an hour, the sword was finally melted. When the entire sword turned into a pile of molten iron, a low roar sounded, and as expected, the beast's soul in the burning prairie sword appeared. Lin Muyu was prepared and smashed it with a heavy demonic sound fist. This way, the burning prairie sword became a weapon without a soul. But it didn't matter, the fire dragon spirit stone was already prepared. Closing her eyes, she carefully exhaled into the crafting cauldron to refine the impurities in the iron. Bits of fiery red starlight rose slowly and floated around the whole crafting cauldron before falling to the ground. After adding in new black iron, Lin Muyu started to refine the cauldron. About an hour later, the fiery red molten iron condensed into a stream and flowed like a red ribbon in the cauldron. All the impurities had been removed and the purity was definitely above 99.8%. This was the best that Lin Muyu could achieve with her current cultivation. She took a deep breath and took out the fire dragon spirit stone. The real dangerous adventure had just begun. The fiery flood dragon spirit stone was abnormally stubborn. Just the refinement itself took nearly 2 hours. Just as the surface of the spirit stone was peeled off and melted, Lin Muyu, who was standing in the cauldron, quickly summoned her martial spirit. Dragon scale wall and mystic tortoise shell were also activated. Roar! As expected, it still came. A fire dragon beast spirit pounced out from the spirit stone and opened its bloody mouth, directly smashing into the mystic tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall. Lin Muyu let out a low roar and waved her fists wildly. She even took out a freshly forged weapon and slashed at the beast spirit's strength. For a moment, strong winds blew in the crafting cauldron, and the roars of the beast spirit were endless. After nearly half a minute of battle, the fire dragon beast spirit was slowly refined. Lin Muyu stood in the crafting cauldron, gasping for breath. There was a burning wound on her chest. The fire dragon beast spirit was truly not for show. Even inside the crafting cauldron, it was still able to launch such a fierce counterattack. It was too terrifying. However, Lin Muyu was still very glad that she had survived. In this case, the grade of this sword would definitely not be too low. The fire dragon beast spirit sank into the molten iron, and there was a faint hissing sound. Lin Muyu circulated her true qi and continued to refine the sword. Furthermore, she chose a dignified long sword from the sword model that Lulu had given her as the mold. The molten iron slowly flowed into the mold. The entire process of remolding the sword only took a few minutes. When the crafting cauldron dissipated, a fiery red long sword floated in the air. Lin Muyu pushed with her palm, and a strong gust of wind sent the long sword into the pool. Pooh! Intense steam rose up, evaporating more than half of the water in the pool. When she carefully fished the burning prairie sword out from the bottom of the pool, she had actually forgotten to carve a name for it. With no other choice, she raised her finger and spat out the true dragon yuan fire. Just like that, she used her finger to write the 2 words, burning prairie, on the blade of the sword. The characters were vigorous and forceful, and it was written in the style of Wang Shi. Lin Muyu had been learning calligraphy from her father since she was young, and her calligraphy skills were absolutely outstanding among her peers. Now, she could finally put it to good use. Big brother, congratulations, this is a 5th-tier profound grade sword. Lulu clapped her hands and said with a smile. Lin Muyu was also very gratified. The new burning prairie sword was a little heavier than the original, and the scabbard was also not suitable for use. Hugging the burning prairie sword, he leaned against the headboard and closed his eyes to fall asleep. The fatigue of weapon forging cultivation far exceeded that of refining medicine. After continuously forging a few long swords, he already felt as if the true qi in his body had been sucked dry. When he woke up, it was already the morning of the next day. Dong dong, there was a knock on the door. Lin Ji, wake up. It was Deacon Guyang's voice. Lin Muyu turned over and got up. After a night's sleep, her strength was full again. She hurriedly went to open the door and said with a smile, Grandpa Guyang, isn't it my vacation now? What's the matter? Guyang squinted his eyes and said with a smile, Yes, the great deacon is looking for you. Take your work from last night and go to the Saint Hall. Okay. Although he did not know what it was, Lei Hong would not harm him. After washing up a little, he carried the 6 swords and followed Guyang to the Saint Hall. Early in the morning, the instructors and sparring masters had already finished eating and started cultivating. The Saint Hall was very quiet. "Ayu," Lei Hong said in a heartfelt manner. But in Lin Muyu's eyes, his expression was no different from that of a request. She smiled and said, "Grandpa Lei Hong, if you have something to say, just say it." "Okay." Lei Hong smiled embarrassedly. "Actually, grandfather has been guarding your cultivation last night and saw that you forged some very good weapons, so—" Cough cough. "Next, Deacon Guyang, you tell him." Guyang had a helpless look on his face. What the great deacon means is, although the Saint Hall has received financial support from the Empire, the weapons in our arsenal are actually third-rate goods. You have seen for yourself, the weapons of the instructors are often broken and damaged. In fact, they are all ordinary, superior weapons. There are no spirit-grade weapons at all. So after seeing that you can forge spirit-grade weapons, the great deacon is very pleased. Lin Muyu already saw through it and said with a smile, "So the 2 grandpas want to use the name of the Saint Hall to buy the swords I forged, right?" Guyang rubbed his hands and looked like a profiteer. "But we are a family, you have to give us an insider price, Lin Muyu." Chapter 71. All right then, I owe the Holy Temple a debt of gratitude. I must repay them. Lin Muyu put down the weapons in her arms and said, "These are all spirit-grade weapons. How much should they be worth on the market?" Gu Yang's gaze swept across the distance and said, "Instructor Liu, you used to be a supervisor in the Imperial Weapons Department. Why don't you appraise the grade of these weapons?" Instructor Liu was a bearded man. He stepped forward and picked up a sword. With a clang sound, he unsheathed the sword and flicked his finger on the blade. His eyes shone brightly as he said with a smile, "Good sword. This is a 7th-stage spirit-grade dark iron sword. Its market price is about 7001200 Jin coins. It's a treasure that many noble childs are eager to get." Lin Muyu turned to Lei Hong and smiled, "Then sell them to the Holy Temple at half price. These swords will be sold for 500 Jin dollars each. Grandpa Lei Hong, what do you think?" Lei Hong nodded happily. "Yes, Deacon Guyang, allocate 2,500 Jin dollars from the Holy Temple to Lin Ji. Remember to place these swords on the top floor of the weapons pavilion. Only Silver Star and Gold Star instructors can use these weapons." Guyang cupped his fists. "Yes, great deacon." Lin Muyu left the Holy Temple after receiving the money. She bought a new scabbard and went straight to the Wanxing weapon shop. Her heart was filled with joy. She had fulfilled her promise with the Sword Elder and reforged the Burning Prairie sword into a 5th-grade mysterious grade demigod weapon. Now the Sword Elder should be teaching her superior sword techniques as promised, right? Early in the morning, the Wanxing weapon shop had just opened for business. When Lin Muyu stepped into the shop, she saw the Sword Elder standing on top of a branch in the distance. He was wearing a white robe and had the demeanor of an immortal. His feet were stepping on the tender leaves of a branch, and a long sword was slowly flying around his body. He was absorbing the spiritual energy in the morning light, and his breathing had the demeanor of a grandmaster. Only the heavens knew who this Sword Elder was, but at least Lin Muyu was almost certain that this Sword Elder's cultivation was definitely not below Lei Hong or Chu Chu's. Perhaps in the entire empire, he was also one of the strongest. It was just that he lived in seclusion and no one cared about him. Lin Muyu did not rush forward to interrupt. Instead, she held the Burning Prairie sword and silently stood on the stone path, watching the Sword Elder cultivate. After more than an hour, the sun was already high up in the sky. The spiritual energy in the morning light had also gradually dissipated. The Sword Elder finally slowly opened his eyes and looked at the youngster who was not far away. He smiled and said, "Young hero, have you fulfilled your promise?" "Yes." Lin Muyu leaped forward with the prairie fire sword in her hand. She knelt down on one knee and presented the treasured sword, saying, "Shifu, please accept it." The Sword Elder could not help but smile. He reached out to hold the burning prairie sword and pulled it out with a keng sound. Suddenly, he felt the flame on the blade surging and the faint sound of a fire flood dragon could be heard. Moreover, the sword's arc was simple and beautiful. It had the charm of a master's work. His finger lightly swung the blade and felt the sharp force. He could not help but smile and said, "5th level mysterious rank. It really is a good sword. Did you use a 9,000-year-old fire flood dragon beast spirit?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "Shifu, you even know this?" The sword elder laughed. "If I could not even know this, how could I be your Shifu?" "Ha, that's true. Get up, I will accept you as my disciple." "Thank you, Shifu." Lin Muyu stood up, her face filled with endless joy. The sword elder looked at this new disciple and muttered, "The way of the sword is vast and boundless. If you want to learn the true imperial sword technique, you must cultivate a sword heart. Without a sword heart, you will not be able to communicate with the sword. Do you understand?" Lin Muyu was confused. "I don't really understand." The sword elder smiled. "It's no wonder. Your previous attainments in swordsmanship were not even superficial. To put it bluntly, the average imperial sword technique in Jianghu uses qi to control the sword. Using qi to control the sword's flight, but our sex practice is to use the heart to control the sword. To put it simply, it is to communicate with the sword spirit within the blade, and become one with the sword. Therefore, even if the blade leaves your hand, it will change according to your will." "Is there a difference between using qi to control the sword and using the heart to control the sword?" Lin Muyu asked with an awkward smile. The sword elder could not help but laugh. He did not answer, but instead asked, "When facing a battle, is your mind faster or your qi faster?" Lin Muyu instantly understood. "I understand, Shifu. Using the heart to control the sword is the best in the imperial sword technique." The sword elder lightly stroked his white beard. His expression carried a trace of arrogance as he said, "That's right. When you master using the heart to control the sword, you will find that using qi to control the sword is extremely clumsy." "And, thank you, Shifu. When do we start?" "Haven't we already started?" "I'll forgive this disciple for being slow-witted." "That's right." The sword elder suddenly interrupted. "What's wrong, Shifu?" The sword elder coughed and smiled. "You can follow me to learn the imperial sword technique, but you won't be learning it for free. Before you learn it, you need to buy a mysterious grade sword and 2 spirit grade swords from my Wanxing weapon shop. Is that okay?" Lin Muyu immediately cupped his hands and said, "Of course." "And then let's start." The first step, you must first understand the heart of the sword. The sword was originally just an ordinary iron, but because of the sword's owner, it has a spirit. The sword follows your heart. There is no sword in your hand, but there is a sword in your heart. The sword elder talked about the Heart Sutra of the Sword Tao and let Lin Muyu memorize it first. Then, he taught her a set of true qi. After a series of teachings, he flicked his sleeves and said, "I'm going to meditate in the inner room. You will cultivate in this courtyard. Within 3 days, you must comprehend the heart of the sword. Otherwise, you won't be qualified to continue learning the heart of the sword." Lin Muyu nodded, not really understanding. She turned around and sat on the stone steps in the courtyard. Then, she quietly entered into the comprehension of the Heart Sutra of the Sword Tao. The sword elder turned around and flew into the inner room. He sat there quietly. The housekeeper beside him was already more than 60 years old. He was holding an incense tripod and whispered, "Sword elder, isn't it too difficult for this child to comprehend the heart of the sword in 3 days? You should know that even with your perception, it took you 5 days and 5 nights to comprehend the heart of the sword." The sword elder faintly smiled. "Everything is fate. I am used to living like a wild crane. I don't want to accept disciples. This child has some perception. Whether or not he can learn the heart of the sword depends on his fate. You only need to send him 3 meals." He sat there for 2 days. During these 2 days, Lin Muyu only ate 3 meals. However, he didn't feel very hungry. The sword elder said, "The sword is an ordinary iron. It is because of the sword wielder that it has a spirit." This sentence alone made Lin Muyu ponder for a full 2 days and 2 nights. What did it mean to have a sword in one's heart? The burning prairie sword was spread out on both of his legs. He quietly comprehended the sword intent. The late autumn night was cold. Waves of cold wind brushed past his face. He closed his eyes and didn't say anything. His whole body slowly rose up with blue Jinqi. It transformed into the shape of a sword and then seeped into his body. This made the housekeeper dumbfounded. Gradually, although Lin Muyu's eyes were closed, he could see the chaotic void in his EC slowly condense into a fiery red long sword. It was the virtual image of the burning prairie sword. What? He was dumbfounded. Why was the burning prairie sword able to enter his EC? Was this what the sword elder meant by having a sword in one's heart? Buzz, buzz, buzz. The burning prairie sword on his legs let out a low whistling sound. Lin Muyu suddenly stood up. When he once again held the burning prairie sword, he suddenly felt a spiritual connection coming from the sword hilt. Creak. The door to the back of the room opened. The sword elder stepped out with a smile of approval on his face. Lin Muyu, you really didn't let me down. You actually comprehended the heart of the sword in 2 days and 2 nights. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. I comprehended the heart of the sword? Master, how do you know my real name? I don't even know who you are. How could I dare to accept you as a disciple? The sword elder laughed. The next practice is to communicate with the spirit. Send your consciousness into the sword and communicate with the spirit of the sword. However, you must be careful. This practice process will have some dangers. If you are not careful, your consciousness may be swallowed by the spirit of the sword. After all, the spirit of the sword is a ferocious spirit beast. To truly tame it is not that easy. Yes, I know. The sword elder turned around and went back to his room. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword and sat down again. She closed her eyes and slowly extended her consciousness into the burning prairie sword. The inside of the sword was like another chaotic world. It was empty and dark. Lin Muyu's consciousness turned into a physical form. She looked at the surrounding darkness with amazement and slowly flew. Roar. Suddenly, a fiery red evil beast appeared in front of her. It flew and circled in the air. It opened its bloody mouth and attacked fiercely. It was the spirit beast inside the sword, Fire Flood Dragon. Ah! Lin Muyu hurriedly opened her arms and used her arms to force open the jaws of the fiery WM. However, the strength of the fiery WM was too strong and it continued to bite down fiercely. Poochie! Lin Muyu's right arm was bitten off amidst the intense pain. The fiery WM chewed on this delicious meal with all its might and swallowed it whole. It roared continuously and opened its claws for another attack. Poochie! Lin Muyu's consciousness body was broken in the blink of an eye. Her body turned into starlight and slowly dissipated. The fire flood dragon roared again and again. It opened its mouth and bit off his other arm. Beast! Lin Muyu roared. An indescribable anger gushed out from the bottom of her heart. In the next moment, a golden light bloomed in the darkness. A golden true dragon covered in flames emerged from his body. The long dragon's body circled around Lin Muyu. The dragon's head looked at the fire flood dragon. It suddenly opened its mouth and let out a dragon roar. Poochie! It bit the head of the fire flood dragon and began to tear it apart. Pa! The huge dragon's claws crossed and firmly grasped the neck of the fire flood dragon. The dragon opened its mouth and flames expanded. It looked like it was about to swallow the fire flood dragon. Ao ao! The fire flood dragon unexpectedly let out a cry. It lowered its proud head and whimpered as if it was crying. It was actually begging for mercy? In front of a true dragon, how could a mere fire flood dragon be so rampant? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Her strength slowly dispersed and the image of the true dragon that lingered around her slowly disappeared. As for the fire flood dragon, it crawled at Lin Muyu's feet, as if it had pledged its loyalty. Humph, that's more like it, he chuckled and slowly withdrew his consciousness. He opened his eyes and looked down. He could feel a burst of joy coming from the burning prairie sword. Sure enough, the sword heart could communicate with the sword soul. So it really was this amazing. Chapter 72. Master, I did it. Lin Muyu jumped up in ecstasy. The sword elder walked out of the room and laughed. Good, your talent is indeed rare. Master, what should I learn next? Are you going to teach me a set of imperial sword technique? Lin Muyu asked, full of hope. Sword technique? The sword elder couldn't help but laugh. He twirled his beard and said, You, using your heart to control the sword doesn't have any sword technique. As long as you can defeat your opponent, any move is your sword technique. Even I don't have any sword techniques. The only thing I can teach you is a few scattered moves. Master, please tell me. Watch carefully. The sword elder gently raised his palm. Not far from the sword rack, a Qingfeng sword suddenly came out of its sheath. As if it had a mind of its own, it lightly hummed in the air. Following the sword elder's movements, it slowly turned into a stream of air. In the blink of an eye, the stream of air around it formed an invisible blade. With the Qingfeng sword as the core, the Qingfeng sword quickly bombarded the blue stone in front of him. With a loud sound, the blue stone turned into powder. Lin Muyu was stunned. The blue stone was at least 1 meter thick, but the Qingfeng sword was just an ordinary sword. The power of this imperial sword technique was truly amazing. The sword elder faintly smiled. The imperial sword technique that I practice is divided into 2 methods. One is to gather, just like the attack in front of you, concentrating the power at one point to defeat the opponent. The other is to disperse, spreading the power out to form an entire attack, making it impossible for the opponent to hide. Although the imperial sword technique is ever-changing, the same principle is to gather and disperse. As he said this, the sword elder gently raised his arm. The Qingfeng sword turned into a shadow and flew into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into countless blades that fell from the sky. Only one of them was a real sword. The rest were invisible blades formed by the sword elder's Do Qi. However, they were still extremely powerful. In the blink of an eye, the blue stone tiles in the courtyard were filled with holes. Lin Muyu was dumbstruck and said, How am I supposed to study? The sword elder laughed. First, learn to gather. Don't use your hands to hold the sword. Use your sword to break a stone slab. That's the first step. Yes, master. The burning prairie sword was placed in the distance. Lin Muyu slowly opened her hand and sensed the sword's soul in the blade. The soul of the fire flood dragon was also quickly shining and echoing. Its emotions were intense, but the burning prairie sword only trembled a little. Surprisingly, there was not much movement. Concentrate. The sword elder said from the side, You must be completely focused in order to reach the highest realm of flying swords. Yes, master. Lin Muyu continued to try and quickly calmed her mind. Her index and middle fingers were pressed together like a sword, and her mind and the fire flood dragon sword's soul resonated with each other. The fire flood dragon sword's soul even seemed to be somewhat happy. Rise. He let out a low grunt, and this time, the burning prairie sword let out a humming sound as the blade slowly floated up. Lin Muyu was extremely excited. She controlled the direction of the burning prairie sword's tip and aimed at a blue stone from afar. She suddenly exerted force and said in a low voice, Go! Shwa! The long sword quickly flew over and with a pa sound pierced into the stone slab, but did not penetrate it. The sword elder laughed from the side and reminded him, Ayu, your concentration is not enough. Concentrate your thoughts on the sword and combine them with the sword spirit. Only then will you be able to display the greatest power. Your current degree of integration is not even 10%. Continue practicing. Yes, master. After more than 1,000 attempts, Lin Muyu finally opened his palm at daybreak. Using his heart to control his sword, he smashed the top of the bluestone slab into pieces. Moreover, this huge bluestone slab was already riddled with holes. Lin Muyu had spent the night tormenting it. Not bad. The sword elder once again appeared behind this diligent student. He smiled and said, Your imperial sword technique has reached small success. Thank you, master. Don't be too proud. It is only small success. You still have a lot to learn. After saying that, the sword elder muttered to himself, speed and strength are the key to the imperial sword technique. However, this is only the basic imperial sword technique. Next, this old man will teach you an even more brilliant, gather attack method. HM? The sword elder flicked his sleeves and suddenly, a wooden sword that was not far away flew up against the wind. It was aimed directly at another stone slab not far away. The sword elder smiled and said, "You, do you think that this wooden sword can pierce through stone?" Lin Muyu could not help but be speechless. Wood piercing through stone, isn't that a bit too much? Really? The sword elder laughed and suddenly shook his arm. Suddenly, the wooden sword whistled and rotated with the sword as the axis. Its speed became faster and faster. Suddenly, it flew out. Stone chips flew in all directions and hit the stone. Sure enough, the stone was pierced through. Damn, Lin Muyu's mouth was wide open. She was extremely shocked. The sword elder smiled slightly. This is the spiral. The power of the spiral can increase the penetrating power. In this world, there are many people who know how to use the imperial sword technique. However, the number of people who know how to use the power of the spiral can be counted on one's fingers. Next, you will learn the spiral. Yes, master. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. Lin Muyu's cultivation speed made even the sword elder sigh. This kid was indeed a genius at learning the sword. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A cyclone wrapped around the burning prairie sword. The fire dragon sword spirit happily cried out. The sword body rotated at a high speed and jumped in the air in a spiral trajectory. With a pung sound, it smashed into a green rock and directly disintegrated it. Not bad. The sword elder gently stroked his beard and smiled with satisfaction. Next, you will use the wooden sword to complete this attack. Lin Muyu wanted to die. How much strength did he need to use the wooden sword to complete this task? However, he did not give up. He quickly picked up a wooden sword. This time, there was no longer the sword spirit. He could only rely on his chi to control the wooden sword. This small wooden sword was suspended in the air. Lin Muyu's arms flew up and down. His chi drove the wooden sword to spin faster and faster. The wooden sword turned into a pile of wood chips. The green rock remained motionless. The sword elder calmly said, "Housekeeper, go and buy another 100 wooden training swords." "No, buy 200. "Yes, sword elder." In the blink of an eye, another 2 days passed. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The wooden sword rotated at a high speed in front of Lin Muyu's chest. Lin Muyu opened his palms. His chi turned into a lightning that was pulled between his palms and the wooden sword. This was what he had comprehended in the past 2 days. Turning his chi into lightning to control the wooden sword. This was the first time the sword elder was stunned. The sword elder had cultivated for a lifetime. He had seen people using chi to control a sword, but he had never seen someone using lightning to control a sword. However, Lin Muyu was able to do this. Pang! A loud sound rang out. The lightning wrapped around the wooden sword penetrated the green rock and directly smashed it into pieces. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. "Teacher, how is it? Is it done?" The sword elder was a little scared. What kind of terrifying person was he cultivating? He secretly thought that he could not teach him any more profound imperial sword techniques. "And it's done." The sword elder stroked his white beard and said, You have already learned the Gathering and Dispersing Heart Sutra. With your current cultivation level, you can be considered to be at the top of the imperial sword technique. I have nothing else to teach you. Go back to the holy temple. You have already stayed here for 7 days. Lin Muyu was surprised. He remembered that Lei Hong gave him 3 days off, but he had already been outside for 7 days. Holding the burning prairie sword, he retreated a few steps and knelt on the ground. He kowtowed and said, "Thank you, teacher, for your guidance. Lin Muyu will always remember it. Teacher, rest assured, I will go back and forge a weapon as soon as possible." The sword elder laughed. "Good child, quickly get up and go back." the sky is getting dark. N. While he was at it, he bought some dark steel and spirit stones from the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. When he arrived at the Holy Temple, the guard recognized him and greeted him with a smile. Master Lin Ji, you're finally back. And what's the matter? Yes, the day before yesterday and this morning, a female alchemist from the spiritual medicine department came to find you. However, you were not here, so she went back. She told us to tell you to find her when you come back. It must be Chu Yao. Lin Muyu's heart warmed. He smiled and said, "Thank you." What he didn't expect was that Gu Yang and Lei Hong didn't punish him. After all, he was such a good seedling. The two deacons also wanted to nurture him. Especially when they saw the charm in Lin Muyu's eyes, they knew that this kid's strength had increased again. He was now close to level 59 Battle Saint and could step into the first heavenly layer at any time. After putting the black iron and spirit stones in his room, he quickly went to the spiritual medicine department. The spirit medicine department was still filled with the strong smell of medicine. Chu Yao was wearing a snow-white female alchemist uniform, which accentuated her exquisite figure. As soon as she saw Lin Muyu, she rushed forward and grabbed his hand. You've been gone for so many days. What were you doing? I was learning sword arts from an expert. Then your sword arts must have reached a certain level? Chu Yao tilted her head and asked with a smile. Lin Muyu clenched his fist and smiled confidently. It's all right, he was quite modest. Chu Yao giggled and pulled him inside. She said, I have a friend that I want to introduce to you. Sister Chu Yao made a new friend in the spiritual medicine department? What are you talking about? Chu Yao smiled coquettishly. She then took a cage from a pile of herbs. Inside it was a white bird. There was an empty bamboo tube tied to the bird's leg. She hugged the bird and said with a smile, "This is a specially trained messenger bird. It is also the main way for the Empire to deliver the letter. This messenger bird is a spiritual bird. It can track the breath of the bloodline. It is said that it can find people from thousands of miles away. It is only one-on-one. I have already fed it a bit of my blood, and you should also feed it a bit of your blood. This way, even if you are thousands of miles away, I will still be able to find you." So magical? Lin Muyu was amazed. "Give me your hand." Holding onto Lin Muyu's hand, Chu Yao took out a silver needle and pointed it with a smile. But she immediately frowned. Your skin is getting thicker and thicker. Even a needle cannot pierce it. Sister Chu Yao, you are scolding me. I did not say that my skin is thicker." Finally, Chu Yao pricked Lin Muyu's finger with the silver needle and squeezed out a drop of blood for the spiritual bird to drink. The little bird immediately spread its wings and flew back and forth between the two of them. It was very intimate. Chu Yao used her finger to rub the bird's wings and said with a smile, "I will call it Xiao Bai. In the future, it will only belong to the two of us. I will be the one to feed it. When I can't find you, I will let Xiao Bai find you." Good. Suddenly, another person from the Saint Hall entered the medicine concocting hall. It was Zhang Wei, clad in armor and looking extraordinarily mighty. The guards of the medicine department didn't dare to ask any questions, and so they just casually barged into the department. "You're right. Lord Zhang Wei, what is the matter?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Zhang Wei's lips curled up. "Of course it is a good thing. Lord Lin Ji, Princess Tang Xiaoxi is in the Holy Temple. She wants you to return." "Oh, Xiaoxi is here." Lin Muyu smiled and turned to Chu Yao. "The princess must have something to do. Sister, I will go first. I will come back to see you later." Chapter 73. In the southeast corner of Lanyan City's Zetian Palace, there was a small military camp. Soldiers dressed in dark blue imperial military uniforms were training with long spears in their hands. Horses galloped as a group of cavalrymen passed through the camp, holding blood-red patrolling flags in their hands. Other than the shouts of training, there was no sound in the camp. It was a scene of desolation. Military police camp, the place in charge of military law in the entire imperial capital. On the road paved with green and blue bricks, A patrolling duty officer flew in with a letter in his hand. He knelt on one knee and said respectfully, "Commander Darren, a letter from Tsangnan Province." 2 rows of military officers stood respectfully on both sides. Behind the main officer's desk, a youth with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes was looking at the map on the paper roll. He was wearing a high-ranking military officer's uniform with 3 golden stars on his collar. That was the military rank of the Imperial Commander. This person was none other than the commander of the Imperial Military Barracks, Xiang Yu. At a young age, he was able to sit in the commander's position and was in charge of the military law of the entire army. Moreover, his identity was quite deep as he was the descendant of the imperial god of war, Xiang Wenin. It was because of this that almost everyone in the imperial army was somewhat afraid of him. Of course, Xiang Yu's most feared part was his bloodbath spear. Xiang Yu's cultivation was inherited from Xiang Wenin, and he could be said to be the most intelligent and brave general in the imperial army. Another letter from Tsangnan Province? Xiang Yu asked with a slight smile. Could it be that Jiujiu still wants me to arrest that Lin Muyu? The duty officer shook his head. This subordinate does not know. Xiang Yu took Yu's letter and scanned through it. He could not help but frown and said, Tsangnan Province has mobilized tens of thousands of troops and still could not find him. They also suspect that Lin Muyu has already infiltrated the imperial capital. What does everyone think should be done? A high-ranking officer cupped his fists and said, Commander, why don't we conduct a carpet search in the imperial capital? Xiang Yu waved his hand. Firstly, this is too much of a large force. Once His Majesty is alarmed, we may not be able to bear the consequences. Secondly, even though our military barracks is in charge of the 3 armies, our military strength is after all limited with only 2,000 people. It is impossible to conduct a carpet search. Not only would it be a large force, it would also be futile. Commander, do you have any brilliant moves? The corners of Xiang Yu's mouth curled up, and he said with a smile, Can't say brilliant move. You guys follow me, we're making a trip to the Imperial Army's main camp. Haven't seen Commander Feng Jixing for a long time. I was just thinking of exchanging pointers with him. It just so happens that Feng Jixing's 30,000 Imperial Guards are in charge of this matter. We must capture Lin Muyu as soon as possible. Otherwise, Uncle will keep nagging us. The Deputy General had a smile on his face. Lord Commander is brilliant. This subordinate admires you. Holy Palace. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the buildings of the Holy Palace, casting the statue of the god of war, Xiang Wenin, on the top of the Holy Palace on the ground. It was extremely long, as though it was about to cover the entire side palace. Lin Muyu passed through the main hall and went straight to the side palace. From afar, she saw Tang Xiaoxi dressed in a fiery red dress. Tang Xiaoxi's martial soul was the fire fox, and her dress was also inclined towards red. As a result, even when she was wearing a snow-white dress, it would be embellished with fiery red-purple flowers as accessories. Moreover, Princess she was not lacking in money. Her dress seemed to change every day, and it was simply the envy of all the noble ladies in the imperial capital. Tang Xiaoxi saw Lin Muyu at a glance. She ran over gracefully with a happy smile on her face. Why you only back now? Lord Zhongwei has been out for so long. Lin Muyu laughed awkwardly. I had some matters to attend to. Moreover, why didn't you tell me that you were coming? Zhang Wei scratched the back of his head and laughed. Princess, I went to the trading company once, and then to the weapon shop, but I couldn't find Lord Lin Ji. In the end, I only found him in the spiritual medicine department. Tang Xiaoxi laughed lightly. Then I'll have to trouble Lord Zhang Wei. You should quickly go and rest. Leave him to me. Zhang Wei looked at Lin Muyu with an ambiguous smile. He lightly bumped his fist on her chest and laughed. Lord Lin Ji has to take good care of Princess Shi. Don't forget our holy palace's etiquette. Lin Muyu glared at him, then watched as Zhang Wei laughed and left. Xiao Shi, why are you looking for me this time? Lin Muyu asked. Tang Xiaoxi grunted and said, Have you forgotten? There are only 3 days left before the Upper Shi Festival. The Upper Shi Festival is one of the most important festivals in the empire. Didn't we agree to celebrate the Upper Shi festival together? Have you really forgotten? No, I really haven't. Oomph. Tang Xiaoxi had a look of, I'd be a fool if I believed you. She said, anyway, you must go. I have already booked the top floor of the Tingyu Pavilion. I have also invited many good friends. Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing, Imperial Guard Chu Huaying, and Imperial Guard Commander Qin Lei will all be attending. You must go. All right. Lin Muyu agreed. Tang Xiaoxi pouted. Why do you look so unhappy? I knew it. You are worried that the beautiful pharmacist Chu Yao from the spiritual medicine department doesn't have an invitation, right? Don't worry, I have given Chu Huaying 2 invitations. He will pass one to Chu Yao. You only have Sister Chu Yao in your heart, right? Lin Muyu looked at her like a girl fighting for attention and couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Shi, you are a princess. How can you be calculative with Sister Chu Yao? She is just a pharmacist. All right, no matter what, you are in the right. Tang Xiaoxi crossed her arms in front of her chest, squeezing her breasts. She pouted and said, Mu, what have you been busy with these days? It seems that your cultivation has improved again. Let me see the results of your cultivation these days. How about it? Lin Muyu was stunned. Do I really want to see? Yes. All right then. If Xiao Shi wants to see, I will let you see. I have created a few moves that I haven't named yet. Help me think of a name. Yes, I brought some food. I'll watch your demonstration after I eat. Tang Xiaoxi cheered. But Tang Xiaoxi brought some delicacies and a bottle of fresh and elegant wine. After eating a little, Lin Muyu took her to her cultivation room. Tang Xiaoxi's guards followed closely behind. They were all young and strong martial artists between the ages of 20 to 35. They looked at Lin Muyu fiercely as if saying, if you dare to kidnap the princess, we will fight you to the death. When they arrived outside the courtyard, Tang Xiaoxi turned around and said to the guards, okay, I will go in with Mu. You guys wait outside. One of the guards cupped his fists and said, Princess, this doesn't seem very good. Tang Xiaoxi raised her eyebrows. What's not good about it? Will Mu eat me? The bodyguard had a helpless look on his face. He was afraid that this kid would eat this delicacy of his. However, he did not dare to say it out loud. He only said respectfully, yes, we will wait outside. If the princess doesn't come out, we will not leave. Okay. Tang Xiaoxi happily followed Lin Muyu into the courtyard and closed the door behind her. It was a taboo to peek at someone else's cultivation in the empire because it was suspected of stealing someone's skills. Of course, Lei Hong's behavior of peeking at Lin Muyu's cultivation was not counted as such. After all, he was already so old and shameless. The courtyard was very spacious. There were a few rockery and a lotus pond. All right, let me see your results. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't wait any longer. She leaped over and sat on a section of the railing as she said with a smile. Lin Muyu nodded. The heart of the sword flashed in his mind. He raised one hand slightly. Suddenly, the burning prairie sword on his back came out of its sheath with a clang. It hung in the air and let out a faint sword sound. This was the basic ability of using the heart to control the sword. Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Her small mouth slightly opened. Sword control technique? What a guy! Lin Muyu laughed. His ability was not limited to the sword control technique. Thinking of this, she suddenly let out a low grunt. True Qi surged and turned into lightning that seeped into her palms. The lightning formed countless dazzling chains that connected the burning prairie sword and her palms. Lin Muyu controlled her strength and speed and suddenly launched an attack. Suddenly, the burning prairie sword pierced into the distance with lightning speed. Pang! A stone pillar suddenly split into two. This attack was simple and violent. It was a technique created by Lin Muyu by combining the lightning strike and sword of lightning techniques. Its specialty was its speed and strength. It was able to launch a sudden attack within a second. Most people would not be able to defend themselves in time. Furthermore, he had been practicing this technique in secret. Even the Sword Elder did not know about it. The Sword Elder was worried that this kid would surpass his master. However, he did not know that in some aspects, this kid had already surpassed him. Wow, Tang Xiaoxi opened her small mouth and said, "Moo, is this the move that Grandpa Choo Choo's lightning strike evolved from?" "Yes, it is a fusion of the sword control technique." "Xiaoxi, can you name it?" he said with a smile. "Let's call it Thunderwave?" Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. "Yes, good name. It is very appropriate. Is there anything else?" Lin Muyu gently opened one of her palms. A light wind surged in her palm. Between stillness and movement, streams of air lingered around the burning prairie sword. Slowly, it formed a small storm. Lin Muyu muttered to herself. She pushed her palm forward. With the storm and the burning prairie sword as the core, it directly smashed a boulder into pieces. Heavens! Tang Xiaoxi could no longer sit still. She jumped down from the railing. Her face was filled with shock. Such a strong destructive power. Lin Muyu's body was still surrounded by the air. She smiled and said, "After comprehending the heart of the sword, I tried to harmonize with the wind laws in the air. However, I did not expect that the power would be so great. This, I call it the sword control technique. Its power is impressive. However, the disadvantage is that it takes time to accumulate a strong wind force. In a real battle, it is very difficult to make a difference." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and nodded. "Yes, this move should be named Windbreak." Good name. Do you have any other moves?" "Yes, the finale has not been shown yet." Facing the lotus pond, Lin Muyu focused his mind and silently opened his palm. In an instant, countless invisible blades flew out from his body. With his heart of the sword released, even Tang Xiaoxi could see his true chi swords. Rustle, the water in the pool began to tremble violently. In the next moment, the water in the pool seemed to be attracted to something as it slowly rose up and gathered together. Furthermore, the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly and the water arrows actually froze into light blue frost blades. If the Sword Elder's teachings were to be compared to the external release of the Heart Sword, then Lin Muyu's technique was a sublimation of the external release of the Heart Sword. Rise! Raising his arm, thousands of ice swords soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, they landed on the ground not far away. It directly turned the place into a mess of potholes. Chapter 74. Using water to control the sword heart technique scatter word formula. Lin Muyu quickly calmed the surging qi and blood caused by the excessive consumption of true energy, and said with a smile, "Xiaoxi, what do you think of this move? Is it flashy enough?" Tang Xiaoxi was almost petrified. After a while, she blinked her eyes and said, So powerful." These words made Lin Muyu's confidence almost explode. She said with a smile, "Of course. What should I call this move?" Tang Xiaoxi said, "I've seen experts of the Imperial Sword technique use the innumerable sword formula. It's similar, but this move of yours uses the law of water. Why don't we call it Innumerable Sword Absolute Ice?" Good name. Anything else? Tang Xiaoxi asked weakly. "There's still one last move, and it's also the move with the most explosive power." Show it to me." "Alright." Lin Muyu muttered to himself. Immediately, the burning prairie sword flew up with a swoosh and stood vertically in front of him. He opened his palms and wisps of true dragon primary fire condensed between his fingers, slowly transforming into a flaming chain between his palms and the blade of the sword. After activating the rotational force, the burning prairie sword slowly rotated on its axis, while the wisps of true dragon primary fire in his palms spiraled around the blade of the sword like a long dragon. With a dragon's roar, Lin Muyu shouted, "Go!" The long sword whistled through the air, carrying with it a vast spiral of fire. The heat spewed out, and the pond water to the side sizzled. Lin Muyu's target was a huge rock with a diameter of at least 5 meters, and it was an extremely hard black rock. Amidst the loud noise, rocks flew everywhere. Lin Muyu opened his hand, and the wall of the gourd came out of his body, protecting him and Tang Xiaoxi. The impact of this blow swept through the entire courtyard, and the guards outside couldn't help but knock on the door. "Princess, there's such a big commotion inside. Are you all right?" "I'm fine, don't come in," Tang Xiaoxi said loudly. "Yes, Prince." Controlling the sword with fire. Lin Muyu calmed herself down and said faintly, "Flame is the source of power. Together with the piercing effect of the whirlwind, this strike's penetrative power and power are the strongest among all of my moves. Its weakness is the same as Gale Break. The charging time is too long. It's said that the speed at which battle energy is condensed is faster. Maybe when I step into the heaven realm and understand battle energy, I can improve this move. Xiao Shi, what do you think of this move? What's a good name?" Tang Xiaoxi became even more restless. Her face was roasted red by the flames as she said, "I vaguely heard the roar of a dragon just now. Mu, why is there dragon force in this move of yours? Is it a move cultivated from the true dragon bone I gave you last time?" "Yeah, Xiao Shi is so smart." "So that's how it is. Let's call it Dragon Flame Spiral Break. This style looks really good." Lin Muyu stood proudly in the courtyard. The Sword Elder had taught him the heart of the sword and controlling the sword with heart, so he could be considered as his sword art's first teacher. However, the 4 elemental sword control law that he had comprehended in the past few days had surpassed his teacher. Perhaps it could be said that he already had the demeanor of a transcendent master. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, was sullen. "What's wrong, Xiao Shi?" he asked with concern. Tang Xiaoxi raised her head and looked at him with a pair of starry eyes. She said, "When we were in Kathaya City, you were still so weak and needed my protection. But after we came to Lanyan City, Mu has completely surpassed me. My realm is already far inferior to yours. It's okay, I can protect you in the future." He smiled brightly. Tang Xiaoxi's heart warmed and she nodded happily. However, she couldn't show it too obviously, so she pouted and said, "Mu, are you about to step into the heaven realm? My current cultivation is Battle Saint, just one step away, but I still can't break through." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "I probably need another opportunity. I plan to find a day to cultivate in the dragon-seeking forest. If I meet a suitable spirit beast, it can help me break through and step into the heaven realm." "Yes, I want to go with you. Also, you must remember our promise. The Shangxi festival will be held 3 days later. This is the invitation, you must come." "Okay." After sending off Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu secretly let out a sigh of relief. Xiao Shi was approachable, smart, and cute. She was definitely a very good girl, but his status was too different from hers. Moreover, he was currently a wanted criminal. He had a deep feeling that she was out of his league. He didn't want to be a gigolo. Even if he had any status in this world, he had to rely on his own fists to make a name for himself. He didn't want to think about anything else and obediently went to forge a new sword. This could be considered as his tuition fee for the Sword Elder, right? After all, the Sword Elder was a businessman. He definitely wouldn't lose out on this point. At night, the stars shone brightly. The Imperial Army camp was brightly lit. The cavalry galloped in front of the central army tent. The 10 Kiliarchs on duty at night had already led their subordinates to patrol the capital. In the central tent, Feng Jixing was holding an oil lamp and holding a bamboo scroll in his hand. On the bottom of the scroll, there were 4 big words, 7 scrolls of victorious tactics. This was the military strategy passed down from generation to generation by the founding hero of the Great Qin Empire, Xiang Wendian, who was known as the God of War. Every general of the empire would study the 7 scrolls of victorious tactics, but it was unknown how many people could truly comprehend the profound meaning within. Rustle? The curtain was lifted and a captaincy cupped his fists and said, "Lord Commander, the people from the Military Police Battalion have arrived." Military Police Battalion? Feng Jixing raised his head and looked. The light from the oil lamp flickered slightly, illuminating his handsome face. What are the people from the Military Police Battalion doing at the Forbidden Army? Who led them? It's the commander of the Military Police Battalion, Xiang Yu. Xiang Yu? Feng Jixing frowned and stood up. he brushed his battle robe and said, "Follow me to welcome them." Outside the tent, Xiang Yu walked over with dozens of military police battalion generals. From afar, he cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Brother Feng, long time no see. You are still as handsome as ever." Feng Jixing smiled and cupped his fists and said, "Subordinate Feng Jixing greets Lord Xiang Yu." Xiang Yu smiled and said, "You and I are both commanders of the empire. There is no need to be so formal." Even so, Feng Jixing still gave a military salute. Although the total number of military police battalion was only 2,000 people, they had the most power in the imperial army. Even he, the commander of the 30,000 imperial army, had to be respectful to Xiang Yu. "I wonder what important matter Lord Xiang Yu has come to the imperial army camp this time?" Feng Jixing asked. Xiang Yu laughed and said, "It's a small matter. Let's talk inside the tent." After entering the imperial army tent, Xiang Yu sat down on the commander's seat without a trace of politeness. The high-ranking imperial army generals immediately glared at him. Luo Lai had already placed his palm on the hilt of his sword, but Feng Jixing stopped him with a stern look. Xiang Yu naturally had his reasons for being so arrogant. He had the right to be so. Pressing his hand on the table, Xiang Yu looked at the 7 victorious scrolls next to the oil lamp and couldn't help but laugh. "General Feng is studying the military books passed down by our ancestors?" "Yes." Feng Jixing smiled respectfully and said, "I can only study 1 or 2 of them. This general is slow-witted and cannot completely understand the essence of the war god." "General Feng is too modest." Xiang Yu smiled coldly and said, "General Feng should have heard of the murder of Kathaya City's Hua Tian, right? The murderer, Lin Muyu, is said to have infiltrated Lanyan City." "What do you mean, my lord?" Xiang Yu waved his hand lightly and said with a smile, "Our military police camp is short on manpower and cannot search the entire city for Lin Muyu. That is why we have come to the Imperial Army camp to ask General Feng to act on our behalf. The Imperial Army of 30,000 is enough to turn the Imperial capital upside down to capture Lin Muyu." Feng Jixing's heart trembled. He cupped his hands and said, "My lord, please forgive this general for being powerless. Lanyan City is the imperial capital, the city of true dragons. If we wish to search the entire city for Lin Muyu, we must have His Majesty's handwritten decree. Otherwise, this general cannot comply. The imperial army's mission is to protect the imperial city, not to capture felons." Feng Jixing said it straightforwardly, without the slightest intention of giving in. Xiang Yu slowly rose to his feet and looked at him coldly. "General Feng has reminded me that I must go to Zetian Temple to have an audience with His Majesty first before I can search for the criminal." Feng Jixing smiled faintly. "Yes, my lord, you have come in vain." Xiang Yu's expression was cold. He walked down from the commander's seat and stepped on the dark blue carpet of the central army tent. He looked at Feng Jixing with a cold gaze and said with a smile, "How can I come in vain? I heard that General Feng has studied ancestor Xiang Wentian's wind saber technique for many years and is known as the strongest master of wind saber technique in the empire. I happen to be free today. Can you enlighten me?" Feng Jixing was stunned. "This general dares not fight with you, my lord. It's okay. It's just a sparring session." Xiang Yu raised his hand and pulled out a saber from his subordinate's waist. He said with a smile, "Xiang Yu is not good at using a saber and is not qualified to use one. Is it okay for me to borrow this subordinate saber, General Feng?" Feng Jixing's heart trembled. He took the saber from his subordinate and cupped his hands and said, "My lord, we won't overdo it." Slowly spreading his battle chi, Xiang Yu's battle robe fluttered behind him and the light on the saber sword. He was a powerhouse who had stepped into the second layer of Heaven Realm. Naturally, his aura was much stronger than Feng Jixing, a first-layer Heaven Realm powerhouse. With a slight tremble of the saber, he had already launched an attack. The blade cut through the air fiercely. After 5 consecutive slashes, the flames all over his body soared. The first-grade martial soul, Trampling Fire Tiger, was released. This was the legendary martial soul that Xiang Wenyan once possessed, mighty battle chi. Dang dang dang, sparks splashed. Feng Jixing blocked several times in a row and lowered his feet to sweep out. Xiang Yu leaped up to avoid this attack. In the air, the sharp claws of the trampling fire tiger fused with the saber, and a powerful and heavy saber slashed toward Feng Jixing's neck. Feng Jixing's movement technique was excellent. As soon as the saber hilt touched the ground, he used the force to slide half a meter and soared into the sky with his battle boots covered in battle chi. Bang! With a heavy blow, Xiang Yu's fist landed on Feng Jixing's battle boots. Battle chi surged and the wind formed a shock wave, causing the surrounding generals to retreat several steps. Feng Jixing looked up at the sky, purple battle chi all over his body. His second-grade martial soul, Purple Electric Flame Wolf, had already been released, and his eyes were filled with an unyielding fighting spirit. Again! Xiang Yu stayed in the air for a few seconds, then suddenly waved his long saber and slashed down again, using the same windwalking saber technique. Dang dang dang, another series of collisions occurred. Feng Jixing was forced to retreat again and again. Suddenly, a cold light was pressed against his neck. Behind him was a pillar of the tent, and there was no way to retreat. The saber in Xiang Yu's hand was pressed straight against Feng Jixing's neck, his face brimming with a smile. It seems that General Feng's windwalking saber technique has not been cultivated to perfection. With that said, he withdrew his saber and said, "Since the Imperial Guard is unwilling to move out to search for Lin Muyu, then it's a good thing the military police battalion came." Watching Xiang Yu's receding figure, Feng Jixing let out a long sigh of relief. At the side, Luo Lai said, "Commander, with your saber cultivation, you shouldn't have been subdued by Xiang Yu's clumsy move just now." Feng Jixing's expression was complicated. He slowly shook his head and said, "A loss is a loss, there's no need to say anything more. Xiang Yu, he's someone we can't afford to offend. Even Xiang Yu has begun to interfere in this matter. Yu is becoming more and more dangerous. Immediately send Yu's letter to Silver Fir City and have the people there search for evidence faster. Otherwise, we won't be able to prove Yu's innocence." Chapter 75. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. The banquet was held at night, so Lin Muyu did not go there early. Instead, he cultivated the imperial sword technique in the courtyard of his residence in the sacred hall. The flames in the prairie fire sword were faintly discernible. The body of the sword was suspended in the air, controlled by an invisible force. Lin Muyu stood a few meters in front of the longsword. She closed her eyes and slowly opened her right palm to sense the lightning elemental energy in the air. The tiny and violent lightning elemental energy gathered into strands of purple lightning energy that swam between her fingers like a group of naughty children. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh at the sight of it. His compatibility with the laws of lightning was becoming more and more perfect. Among the 4 types of imperial sword technique, he seemed to be the most adept at using lightning. Very few people could withstand a lightning strike. However, he had never displayed the power of the imperial sword technique and the true dragon essence fire in the sacred hall. Just like what Lei Hong had said, in this world, one must learn to hide one's edge. Otherwise, the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. As his cultivation increased, the defensive power of the martial soul gourd alone was enough for him to look down on everyone in the sacred hall. He could even fight against a gold star instructor like Ouyang Qiu without being at a disadvantage. It was also because of his existence that the status of the sacred hall's sparring partners had risen a lot. It could be seen from the attitude of the servants and guards towards the sparring partners. After all, the position of the sparring partners in the sacred hall was punching bags. However, the appearance of Lin Muyu covered this punching bag with a layer of armor and thorns. His appearance made the group of instructors no longer look down on the sparring partners. The group of instructors led by Zhang Wei had even treated the Gold Star sparring partner Lin Muyu as a good teacher and helpful friend. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door. A servant said respectfully, "Lord Lin Ji, it's time." According to Princess Xi's instructions, It's time for you to set off for the Tingyu Tower. The coachman has already prepared a fine horse for you. Thank you. Lin Muyu opened his eyes. The divine light in his eyes disappeared, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. He looked harmless, as if he had returned to the playful and scolding kid. Carrying the burning prairie sword on his back, he went out. As expected, there were more than 100 fine horses in the riding training grounds of the Holy Sanctum. Usually, they were only provided to instructors and sparring masters to practice riding skills. Today, due to his relationship with Tang Xiaoxi, there was actually a horse for him to use. Immediately, Lin Muyu felt as if he had soared through the ranks and was using the public transport. He mounted the horse and performed an imperial military salute to the coachman, smiling respectfully. Thank you, I'll be back on time to send the horse back. Please don't worry. The coachman was flattered and hurriedly said, What are you talking about, sir? Please feel free to use them. Deacon Guyang has instructed that all Gold Star instructors and Gold Star sparring masters can choose their favorite warhorses from the stable. You don't have to be so polite. Yes, thank you very much. Lin Muyu smiled and slowly spurred the horse forward. The coachman stood there in a daze. He could not imagine that a Gold Star sparring master from the Holy Sanctum would treat him so respectfully. After all, the disparity in their statuses was too great. However, Lin Muyu was already used to it. He came from a good family, the son of Long Exine Group's CEO cum chairman, Lin Shun. It could be said that he grew up with a golden spoon in his mouth. Lin Shun was a gentle and docile person, so Lin Muyu grew up to be a humble person. In the eyes of others, he was a second-generation rich kid, but those who really interacted with him knew that he had a good upbringing and was humble. Even when he was facing a waiter, he was still very respectful. There was an old saying that a person's upbringing depended on his attitude towards the waiter. This saying seemed to be reflected in Lin Muyu. However, the coachman was someone from another world. Since he was young, he had been influenced by the concept of hierarchy. In his mind, Lin Muyu was a high and mighty Gold Star sparring master, a legendary lord. Lin Muyu's humility would only make the coachman feel fear. As he passed by the side hall, someone called out to him, Lin Ji, don't be in such a hurry to leave. He turned around and saw Zhang Wei walking over with a white general's robe in his hands. He said, You are a Gold Star sparring master from the Holy Sanctum. How can you wear such a shabby outfit to attend Princess Tang Xiaoxi's last Eve festival banquet? Come, the Grand Deacon asked me to give you this armor. All the Gold Star sparring masters of the Holy Sanctum wear this to meet the Emperor. Lin Muyu was stunned and quickly got off the horse. She looked at the general's robe in Zhang Wei's hands. It was actually made up of silver chainmail and a white general's cloak. She looked at her own green robes and could not help but feel ashamed. After being in the Holy Sanctum for so long, she did not seem to pay attention to her image. All right then, thank you, Sir Zhang Wei. You're welcome. Quickly change. Okay. He entered the side hall and put on the Gold Star sparring master's uniform. When he walked out, Zhang Wei's eyes lit up and he could not help but clap. That's amazing. Sir Lin Ji, Zhang Wei, have never seen anyone who fits this general's robe better than you. If Princess Shi sees this, she will definitely look at you in a different light. Lin Muyu looked down and indeed felt that he looked exceptionally energetic and handsome after wearing this uniform. With the Gold Star sparring master badge pinned to his chest, it was simply perfect. Then I'll go to the banquet. Goodbye, Sir Zhang Wei. Go. Don't forget the helmet. This uniform actually came with a helmet. It was a silver-gray battle helmet. Lin Muyu only clipped it under his armpit. It inevitably looked a little redundant when he put it on. Furthermore, this uniform was actually the uniform that the members of the Holy Sanctum wore when they participated in battles. The armor already made him feel a little uncomfortable. If he put on the helmet, he would feel like he was going to the battlefield to kill the enemy. The armor weighed nearly 10 kilograms. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's cultivation was much higher than before, so he did not feel that it was heavy. He spurred his horse out of the Holy Sanctum's main gate. From afar, he could see Chu Huaijin, who was wearing the armor of the Imperial Guards, standing in front of the Spiritual Medicine Department's main gate. He was leading 2 horses. It was obvious that he was here to pick up Chu Yao. Brother Chu Huaijin. Lin Muyu spurred his horse over and dismounted. He smiled and said, "You're here too." Chu Huaijin couldn't help but smile. "You is here. Wait a moment, Yao will be out soon." As he spoke, Chu Huaijin looked at his attire and couldn't help but laugh. This set of gold star armor that the Holy Sanctum custom-made at the Ministry of Works is really beautiful. I can't get tired of looking at it. It looks even more handsome on you. At this moment, Chu Yao came out. She was dressed in the uniform of a female pharmacist from the Spiritual Medicine Department. She was graceful. When she saw Lin Muyu, she almost didn't recognize her. Her eyes widened as she giggled. "I almost couldn't recognize you when he's dressed like this. But he looks quite good." "Thank you, Sister Chu Yao. Shall we set off?" But the 3 of them mounted their horses together. Chu Huaijin spurred his horse and led the way in front. Lin Muyu and Chu Yao followed behind slowly. Chu Huaijin and Lin Muyu were both wearing the robes of a general, so they looked very serious. The pedestrians on Skirich Street all gave way to them, even though they weren't riding very fast. Not long after, they arrived at a quiet courtyard. It was Tingyu Tower. From afar, a few shop assistants walked up and asked with a smile, "Sirs, do you have invitations?" Lin Muyu took out the invitation that Tang Xiaoxi had left behind. "So it's Princess Xi's guest. Please go up to the 7th floor. Leave the horses to us." At this time, the sun had already set. Red lanterns were lit everywhere in the courtyard of the rain-listening building. Young and beautiful maidservants, who looked like palace maids, were busy carrying delicacies and fruit trays, going straight up to the 7th floor. That was the most expensive box in the rain-listening building. Especially on a day like the Upper West Festival, the cost of reserving the 7th floor was extraordinarily expensive. I heard that the cost of the 7th floor of Tingyu Tower during the last lunar festival is 700 Jinin coins a night. Chu Yao stuck out her tongue and laughed. Chu Huaijin smiled slightly. "It's okay, we don't have to treat you." Lin Muyu said, "Yes, Xiaoxi is rich, she doesn't care about this." When the 3 of them went upstairs, they saw a group of Imperial Guards guarding outside the door. The commander of the Imperial Guards, Qin Lei, was wearing a general's robe and had his hand on the hilt of his sword. He smiled and said, "All the guests are here." He didn't recognize Lin Muyu and asked in surprise, "This is?" Chu Huaijin said respectfully, reporting to Lord Commander, "He is Princess Xi's guest, Lin Muyu." "Let's go in." Qin Lei grinned and didn't say anything. When they entered, they saw that Tang Xiaoxi and Feng Jixing were already there. Tang Xiaoxi quickly stood up and smiled. "All right, since everyone is here, let's quickly take a seat. I'll ask them to serve the dishes." "Yes, I'll listen to the princess." "Mu, come and sit beside me," Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed, but Chu Huaijin smiled and gave him a look. He could only walk over dejectedly. His armor made some noises as he sat down beside Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at him. A trace of confusion flashed past her beautiful eyes. She smiled and said, "Mu, the Empire's general's uniform fits you very well. I've never seen a general who fits this armor better than you." Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and said sourly, "From what the princess said, it seems that Commander Qin Lei and I don't look good in this general's robe." Qin Lei sat down and clapped his hands. "The commander of the Imperial Guards is jealous. Look at you, aren't you embarrassed to be the commander of 30,000 Imperial Guards?" Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly. "Everyone, please don't ridicule me. I'm just a sparring partner of the Divine Temple. I can't be compared to you generals who have a lot of troops." Qin Lei shook his head and smiled. "Hey, you don't have to be so modest. We all know that you're the strongest sparring partner in the Divine Temple. Moreover, the Divine Temple is the cradle of the Empire's famous generals. Many famous generals came from the Divine Temple. Feng Jixing, Chu Huaijin, and I were all from the Divine Temple, so you don't have to be so modest." "Yes, thank you." What's your name? Qin Lei was stunned. He couldn't help but laugh. My name is Qin Lei. I'm the eldest son of Prince Jining. I'm the commander of the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that tonight's Eve banquet was not simple. The people that Tang Xiaoxi invited seemed to be more powerful than the other. This Qin Lei was the son of a prince. He was definitely one of the top figures in the empire. Chapter 76. Come, this is the sweetest jasper flower wine in Lanyan City. Have a taste. The maid poured a cup of wine, and the fragrance of the wine filled the air. Feng Jixing held the cup and smiled. Let's drink 3 cups first. After that, it's time for the performance. Lin Muyu was stunned. There was a performance? She picked up the wine cup and drank it in one gulp. She immediately felt as if a stream of sweet spring water flowed into her throat. There was no strong spiciness at all. Tang Xiaoxi also drank a cup, then smiled and said, Then I'll go and prepare. Prepare for what? Lin Muyu was stunned. Tang Xiaoxi held onto his shoulder and stood up. She smiled and said, You'll know in a while. Thus, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, Qin Lei, and Chu Yao sat at the table and drank another 2 cups of wine. At this time, a few attendants carried a huge drum and placed it in front of them. Lin Muyu suddenly thought of something and smiled. Is it a big encouragement? Feng Jixing couldn't help but smile. No, it's a long-sleeve dance. Oh! You, look to the right and you'll know, Feng Jixing said. Lin Muyu turned around and saw that Tang Xiaoxi had changed into a new set of clothes. It was still red like fire, but this set of clothes had long, wide sleeves. It was the kind that perfectly outlined Tang Xiaoxi's slender waist and perky butt. As she walked, the long sleeves swayed. There was indeed an indescribable sense of beauty. Releasing her fire fox martial spirit, Tang Xiaoxi leaped onto the surface of the drum. Her body was very light, and with the support of the fire fox, she felt like she was floating in the air. Lin Muyu stared at her in a daze. She couldn't help but say, a light body that can dance on the palm. This is probably what it feels like, right? Chu Huayin couldn't help but smile. A light body can dance on the palm? Ayu is really erudite and multi-talented. This sentence is so beautiful when I think about it. I'm just borrowing it, huh? At this time, Tang Xiaoxi waved her long sleeves and said with a smile, This is a long-sleeve dance that I just learned not long ago, so I'm not very familiar with it. I don't know if it will work well with Xiao Yin's Song of the Autumn Goose. Xiao Yin, shall we begin? However, he heard a sweet voice from behind the bead curtain. Let's begin. In the next moment, a melodious sound of the zither sounded, and Tang Xiaoxi gently danced her graceful figure, like a beautiful fairy floating on the surface of a drum. The sound of the zither was melodious, complementing Tang Xiaoxi's movements, really like a beautiful swan goose flying in the sky. But not long after, the sound of the zither suddenly became intense. Immediately a kind of aura of a powerful army overflowed in the room, and Tang Xiaoxi's dance steps also sped up a little, her slender feet on the surface of the drum, like the sound of a war drum. The sound of the zither stopped abruptly, and the song ended. Tang Xiaoxi was already kneeling on the drum with her knees in a spiral position. She bowed with her hands clasped in front of her, looking magnificent. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and the rest were all dumbstruck, while Qin Lei quickly clapped his hands and cheered. His Highness and Princess's zither and dance are simply the best match in the world. Tang Xiaoxi giggled and leapt onto the ground. Soon after, she lifted the bead curtain and said with a smile, Xiao Yin, quickly come out and eat. Lin Muyu's eyes widened. She also really wanted to know what kind of person could play such a melodious yet soul-stirring zither song. It must be someone outside of this world, right? But, just as that young lady wearing a dark blue cloak walked out from the inner room carrying the zither, Lin Muyu was immediately dumbstruck. That absolutely beautiful face, where had he seen it before? Qin Yin walked out with the support of Tang Xiaoxi. Putting down the zither, she raised her head and discovered a handsome youth looking at her. In a split second she was also dumbstruck. How could it be you? Why, the two of you know each other. Tang Xiaoxi was dumbstruck. Lin Muyu was dumbstruck, and suddenly thought of the 1,000 gold yen coins. She couldn't help but say, "Beauty, you still owe me a diamond coin? I couldn't find you anywhere." Everyone was dumbstruck. No one knew that Lin Muyu and Qin Yin had actually met before. What exactly is going on? Tang Xiaoxi was confused. Qin Yin's little face was flushed red, and she suddenly remembered that she was poisoned by the dragon snake's venom that night, and it was Lin Muyu who detoxified the poison for her. But when he detoxified the poison, he also saw her body, and her face was flushed red for a moment. She stammered, So the person who detoxified the poison for me in the dragon-seeking forest that day was you." Feng Jixing instantly understood everything and couldn't help but laugh out loud. What a coincidence, the affairs of the world are like chess. That night, it was actually you who saved your highness. I should have guessed it. Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes widened. Ah? Xiao Yin, it was really Mu who detoxified the poison for you? Lin Muyu didn't dare to speak anymore. He realized that this Xiao Yin wasn't an ordinary person, so he asked weakly, "May I know who this Miss Xiao Yin is?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said word by word, "Her name is Qin Yin, the daughter of the current emperor, the Radiant King, the Empire's Princess Royal." Buzz. Lin Muyu's mind went blank, and his face turned green and purple. He was so conflicted that he wanted to die. No wonder I couldn't find her at Tongtian Street 1. Qin Yin smiled faintly, "But I really live at Tongtian Street 1's Zetian Palace. If you can't find me, then don't blame me for not returning you the 1,000 yen coins." Qin Lei was more simple and honest, but he was still confused. He turned around and asked, What's with this 1,000 yen coins?" Lin Muyu even wanted to die. Asking the Empire's princess for 1,000 yen coins to save his life, unless he didn't want to live anymore. He raised his wine cup, smiled shamelessly and said, "It's nothing. Let's drink this cup of wine, and these past events will be written off like passing clouds." Feng Jixing had long guessed the mystery behind this, and he was speechless. You really can do what you say." Lin Muyu was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. At this time, Qin Yin also saw Lin Muyu's awkwardness, so she stood up and walked leisurely to his table with her wine cup. She slowly knelt down and raised her wine cup with a refreshing smile on her face. "No matter what, you saved my life that night. This cup of wine is my thanks to you." "Thank you." Lin Muyu was at a loss of what to do when the beautiful princess knelt in front of him just a step away. He hurriedly raised his cup and said, "I am an apothecary, and it is my duty to treat and save people. Moreover, it was fate that I met your highness that day. There is no need for your highness to thank me. This actually makes me feel a little ashamed." Qin Yin burst into laughter and said in a peerless manner, "Since General Feng calls you, then can I also call you?" "Of course, please go ahead, your highness." Qin Yin drained the cup of wine in one gulp, and her long, snow-white neck was very attractive. Lin Muyu also raised his cup and drained it in one gulp, a myriad of feelings welling up in his heart. He hadn't thought that he would be so close to the ruler of this world. The Empire's princess was sitting right in front of him, and even the fragrance of Qin Yin's body wriggled into his nose. This feeling was too wonderful. So many people had been dreaming for so many years, and now he had realized it. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at the blushing Lin Muyu. She asked with a smile, "Mu, are you nervous?" "Don't worry, Xiao Yin isn't fierce." He agreed softly. At this time, Qin Yin stood up and walked gracefully back to her seat. She said with a smile, "Father had originally wanted me to accompany him in Zetian Hall for the last lunar festival, but I couldn't refuse Xiaoxi's kindness and had no choice but to come. It was a good thing that I saw Xiaoxi's long sleeves dance, and I also saw Lin Muyu who saved my life. I was so happy that I couldn't put into words." At this time, Chu Yao stood up and gave a courteous bow, saying, "Your Highness, today is a coincidence. This little girl, Chu Yao, would like to ask for justice for me and Ayu." Qin Yin was slightly surprised. "Sister Chu Yao, what is it?" Chu Yao recounted the tragedy that had happened in Silver Fir City. Qin Yin's eyes widened. She had lived in Zetian Hall since she was a child, so she had no idea that the outside world was so dangerous. At first, her beautiful face was filled with shock, but then it turned into anger. She slammed her fist on the table with a loud bang, and the god-binding chains appeared around her. How despicable! How can a bastard like Hua Tian be the city governor of Silver Fir City? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, I have already sent someone to investigate this murder case in Silver Fir City. I believe that it won't be long before we gather enough evidence to prove you and Yao's innocence." Qin Yin nodded, and a smile finally appeared on her beautiful face. She promised, "Sister Chu Yao, don't worry. General Feng will definitely clear your names. Even if he can't, I will still be here." "Thank you, Your Highness." Chu Yao nodded with a smile. After 3 rounds of wine, Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and Qin Lei were all slightly tipsy. Even the 3 beauties, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao, were blushing. They had entered a tipsy state. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Your Highness, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." "Please say it, General Feng." Qin Yin's face was slightly red, and she looked at the grapes on the plate with a smile. Feng Jixing said, "Yu is currently a battle saint at level 59, and is about to break through to the Heaven Realm. He is one of the rare experts in Lanyan City. He is currently a sparring master in the Holy Palace. I would like to recommend you to join the Royal Army and become a member of the Royal Guard. What do you think, Your Highness?" "The Royal Guard?" Qin Yin opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but stopped. After a few seconds, she said with a red face, "General Feng, the Royal Army is appointed by my father. I rarely interfere with it." "If that's the case, just pretend that I have never mentioned this." Feng Jixing laughed. Lin Muyu said, "Is the Royal Guard better than the Holy Palace?" Chu Huaying couldn't help but laugh. He looked at this silly boy and said, "You, the core security of the entire Zetian Palace is handled by the Royal Guard. Moreover, the Royal Guard has the opportunity to be promoted to the white-robed Royal Guard and become the personal guard of the Emperor and Her Highness. This is a supreme honor. Currently, there are only 6 white-robed Royal Guards in the Empire. They are Chu Chu, Lei Hong, Du Hai, Qin Lei, Yao Yuan, and Feng Jixing. Every one of them is an indomitable character. It would be great if you could join the Royal Guard." Lin Muyu came to a sudden realization. So there were 2 white-robed Imperial Guards present here. Feng Jixing and Qin Lei's status could already stand side by side with Chu Chu and Lei Hong. Chapter 77. "Hey, it's so boring to just drink like this." Qin Lei suddenly stood up and cupped his fists. He smiled and said, "Why don't we remove the table in the middle and use martial arts to make friends? Brother Feng, we haven't sparred in a long time, right?" "Sparring here?" Feng Jixing was stunned. He smiled and said, "I don't think that's a good idea. Today is the Lunar New Year's Eve festival. We have to be friendly." Qin Lei was impatient. "We are all martial artists, what's there to be unfriendly about?" "Xiao Yin, don't you think so?" The corner of Qin Yin's mouth curled up, revealing her dimples. She said, "Since we're going to compete in martial arts, we can't make a big fuss. I have a suggestion. No one is allowed to summon their martial spirits. Once they do, they'll lose. Also, martial arts is too dangerous." "Sword duel?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Yin smiled and nodded. "Yes, we will only compete in swordsmanship. How about that?" Feng Jixing said, "That's good. Swordsmanship is the most important of the 6 martial arts. Let's compete in swordsmanship. It won't hurt our friendship. Hee, my swordsmanship is only 3rd rate. I hope that everyone will give in to me." Qin Lei, Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and the others were all high-ranking soldiers. Their main weapons were spears, sabers, and other long-handled weapons. However, everyone had a sword. This was a must. The attendants quickly removed the table in the middle, leaving an empty space. Feng Jixing leaped up, and with a kang, he pulled out the shiny longsword at his waist. With a light flick of his wrist, a sword flower appeared, and he said with a smile, "Come, come, come, who wants to have a taste of this Feng's mediocre sword art?" Chu Huayin laughed and walked over. He slowly pulled out his sword and cupped his fists. "Brother Feng, let's have a taste." Feng Jixing took the initiative to attack. His long sword was surging with battle energy, and the blade of the sword swept out 3 times in a row. Chu Huaying's swordsmanship was more gentle, and he gently avoided Feng Jixing's attack. Then he counterattacked. Feng Jixing quickly blocked. The two of them passed by each other, and their swords had already collided 7 times. Fortunately, both of them had restrained their do qi. Otherwise, the sword qi alone would have turned this place into a mess. Chu Yao looked at the two of them fighting and clapped her hands with a smile. "Big brother, you can do it." Feng Jixing's laughter could be heard. "Your brother's swordsmanship is so clumsy, how can he cheer?" Ding! Amidst the sound of the sword, Chu Huaying quickly retreated with his long sword. He slid back a few meters on the floor and hit the wall. There was a trace of shock on his face. He raised his head and smiled. "Brother Feng, you fell into your trap again." Feng Jixing's swordsmanship had a soft edge to it, and it was this soft edge that had defeated Chu Huaying. "It's my turn." Qin Lei was a martial arts fanatic. He took out his sword every 2 or 3 steps and launched a series of attacks. It was obvious that his swordsmanship cultivation was far above Feng Jixing's, and he was quite methodical. After 3 to 5 rounds, Feng Jixing was already in danger. He hurriedly jumped out of the arena, cupped his fists, and said, "Commander Qin is formidable. I have learned a lot." "Ah, you admit defeat just like that?" Qin Lei was stunned. He looked as if he hadn't fought enough. He said resentfully, "I thought that your swordsmanship had improved, but I didn't expect that you were lazy and didn't learn swordsmanship at all." Feng Jixing laughed. "I specialize in the wind blade technique, not swordsmanship." Qin Lei swept his gaze around, and his gaze descended onto Lin Muyu instead as he said with a smile, You carry a sword on your back. I presume that you're a sword user as well. Come. How about we exchange a few moves?" Lin Muyu was stunned. He had never thought that he would have to fight. He hurriedly shook his head and said, "There's no need. I'm just a sparring master from the Divine Palace, and my cultivation is in the Earth realm. How can I compete with you people in the Heaven realm? You." Qin Lei's eyes widened and he said, "Are you not giving me, Qin Lei, any face?" At the side, Tang Xiaoxi extended her hand and pushed Lin Muyu's arm. She smiled and said, "Mu is an expert. Brother Qin Lei, you have to be careful. If you lose, the entire Imperial army will lose face." Qin Lei's eyes widened. Lin Muyu had already been forced to do something beyond his ability. He could only stand up and step into the arena. He emphasized, "Don't use your martial soul, right? Yes, draw your sword." Lin Muyu stood majestically on the spot. His right hand was placed horizontally in front of his chest. Streams of qi enshrouded him, and the prairie fire sword behind him unsheathed itself with a clang. He raised his hand and grabbed it. Streams of flames appeared on the sword's blade. Good sword, what a handsome sword technique. Qin Lei couldn't help but feel that it was interesting. He had seen many experts in the imperial sword technique, but none of them had the imposing manner that Lin Muyu in front of him had. Even Qin Yin widened her beautiful eyes and looked at Lin Muyu. She completely didn't think that this shameful fellow who loved money as much as his life would actually have such an extraordinary imposing manner when drawing his sword. "I'm coming!" Qin Lei shouted and rushed out from the sword. Even with a light leap, the sword light was like a roulette spinning and chopping down 4 times in a row. Lin Muyu couldn't retreat. He held the sword hilt with both hands to block. He only felt that his arms were about to be shaken off. After the 4 consecutive shakes, he didn't even have time to react after he finished blocking. Qin Lei roared and raised his battle boots to kick out. "I have to block, or else I'll lose." In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Lin Muyu raised his battle boots and met Qin Lei's kick with a pang. However, it was obvious that the opponent's Do Chi was stronger, causing him to continuously retreat a few steps. However, at the moment when he was forced to retreat, a lightning light flew out from his right hand with a pa-pa. The prairie fire sword had already left his hand and was in the air. Whoosh! The purplish-blue lightning light wrapped around the prairie fire sword and blasted straight towards Qin Lei. Lin Muyu didn't use his full strength and only used 50% of his strength. He was also afraid that he would injure Qin Lei. What? Qin Lei was stunned. He hurriedly raised his iron fist and condensed 3 layers of chi armor to block. Pang! The lightning light shot out in all directions. Qin Lei had underestimated Lin Muyu's strength and was continuously forced to continuously retreat a few steps. His face immediately flushed red. With a low shout, he concentrated a large amount of Do Chi into the blade of his sword and leaped up. From a high position, he gave another attack. This bull was planning to use strength to restrain the opponent. This attack was really too strong. Even the bitingly cold Do Chi blew to the point that Lin Muyu almost couldn't open his eyes. Opening his palm, a light breeze was silently generated. It was precisely the prelude to the prairie fire sword. Ha! When Lin Muyu raised his palm, the prairie fire sword, as if it had a mind of its own, followed along and welcomed the attack, sweeping up a bitterly cold storm in a small area. The weapon in Qin Lei's hand was only made of ordinary iron and couldn't be compared to the prairie fire sword, which was a 5th-tier mystic rank sword. Adding on the power of the sword's soul, with a sharp whistling sound, the gale break collided with Qin Lei's attack storm. Pang! Another loud sound, the energy exploded. Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao and the rest were all stunned. Qin Lei's face was full of shock. He had never thought that this little brat's prairie fire sword technique would be so strong. It wasn't like the weak and powerless attacks of those sword users he had met in the past. Lin Muyu's fighting spirit was even higher. He really wanted to see the power of the quadruple elemental sword technique, and Qin Lei, this level 72 Heavenly King stage powerhouse, was practically a rare touchstone. Wang! The blade whistled and spun. Lin Muyu's palms spread out horizontally. Raging flames sustained the prairie fire sword. However, this attack he didn't use the true dragon essence fire, only using ordinary fire. The long sword whistled, spiraling flames encircling it. Like a sharp arrow, it shot towards Qin Lei. Qin Lei was startled. He already felt that he couldn't block this attack. Ha! His battle boots stomped on the ground. In the midst of the shocking sound, golden chains rose in the surroundings. It was his God-binding chain's martial spirit. Brother Qin Lei. Qin Yin suddenly stood up. His eyes were full of anxiety. The God-binding chains was known as the first-grade martial spirit with the most destructive power in the world. This wasn't a joke. The slightest mistake could cause Qin Lei's opponent to lose his life. Lin Muyu had saved his life before. To let him die in front of him was something Qin Yin couldn't do. The flames exploded. The spiraling flames of the prairie fire sword collided with the God-binding chains. Qin Lei retreated a few steps. His chi and blood surged, and his fighting spirit surged. He didn't care about Qin Yin's scolding anymore. With a wave of his long sword, the God-binding chains encircled the long sword and struck towards Lin Muyu. Standing firmly on both feet, the overwhelming true chi surged. Lin Muyu summoned the dragon scale wall and the black tortoise shell at the fastest speed. At the same time, he used the prairie fire sword to control the prairie fire which bounced back. The true dragon essence fire quickly encircled the blade. Since the true dragon essence fire could easily injure people, then it should be safer to use it for defense? A loud sound, as if the entire 7th floor of the Tingling Rain building was about to be overturned. Lin Muyu knelt on one knee on the ground, panting heavily. The dragon scale wall and the black tortoise shell had already been shattered. The prairie fire was propped up on the floor. If it wasn't for the protection of the true dragon essence fire, perhaps she would have already been killed. Qin Lei held the long sword and stood there with a pale complexion. His God-binding chain's martial soul had actually been completely shattered at that moment. The The damage to his martial soul would inevitably injure his body. He felt a sweetness in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Raising his head to look at Lin Muyu, he grinned and said, "You, what a beautiful sword art and defense. Ha, delightful. Delightful. Let's fight again." Lin Muyu didn't even raise her head. Instead, she raised her left hand and shook it. "Big brother Qin Lei, I don't want to fight anymore. I admit defeat." The qi and blood in his body surged. He indeed didn't have the strength to fight anymore. Tang Xiaoxi shot forward and supported Lin Muyu. "Are you all right?" Chu Yao also came over and took Lin Muyu's pulse, saying with a smile, "I'm fine. It's just that her martial soul suffered some damage." Qin Yin, on the other hand, looked at Qin Lei with a trace of reproach and said, "Big brother Qin Lei, you're too rash. You actually used the 7th layer of the God-binding chains to hit Oyu. If it wasn't for his deep cultivation, I'm afraid he would have already." Qin Lei's face was full of apology. I know I was wrong. Xiao Yin, don't be angry, it's fine. Sit down and heal your internal injuries. Feng Jixing raised his wine cup and said with a smile, "You, where did your imperial sword technique come from?" "A mysterious old man." "Oh?" Feng Jixing knew that he didn't want to talk about it, so he said with a smile, "Since you has such a good sword technique, it would be a pity if he didn't participate in the Sword Duel Conference that's held once every 3 years. Sword Duel Conference? Yes, the Sword Duel Conference that's held once every 3 years. The person who wins first place can become a member of the Imperial Guards and receive the honor of meeting His Majesty." As he spoke, Feng Jixing patted his chest and said with a smile, "I'm not talented, but I was the champion of the Sword Duel Conference 3 years ago. I think I also had the title of Tiger of Tongtian Street back then." "Tiger of Tongtian Street?" Chu Huayin laughed and said, "It means that he carried a broken knife from the east side of Tongtian Street to the west side. He fought with a bunch of hooligans all day and was unbeatable. So, the world is unfair. This kind of person can actually become a commander of the Imperial Guards." Feng Jixing glared at him and said, "You're so ugly, don't talk." Chu Huayin was speechless. Chapter 78. Qin Lei led more than 30 Imperial Guards to escort Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi back to the mansion. Feng Jixing was drunk, carrying his precious sword and leading his own warhorse. He turned over and leaned on the horse's back. He turned around to look at Lin Muyu and asked with a smile, You drank so much, can you still ride a horse?" Lin Muyu grabbed the reins and clamped the helmet under her armpit. She said with a smile, "I can. Brother Feng should be more worried about whether you can ride a horseback or not." Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh. "This is not a problem. Lanyan City is my, Feng Jixing's, home. It doesn't matter if I get lost at home. Even if I am drunk, my brothers will find me and carry me back." Qin Lei burped. He was still carrying the wine jar in his hand and said, "Imperial Guards, get on the horse." The lantern light outside Tingyu building was extremely dim. Lin Muyu couldn't see the faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi clearly. She only saw the 2 beautiful girls get on their respective horses. She asked, "Your Highness, Xiaoxi, do you want me to send you back first and then I will go back to the Holy Temple?" Brother Qin Lei drank too much. Qin Yin smiled with her dimples under the dim starlight. You also drank too much. Go back and rest early. Don't worry, Lanyan City is the imperial capital. There are dozens of Imperial Guards with extraordinary strength behind me. No one can do anything to me. I will also protect Xiaoxi. You should go back to the Holy Temple early. It is very late. Be careful of the wolves in the dark." Lin Muyu knew that what Qin Yi knew was a person like Zhen Fong who couldn't wait to tear her into pieces. She spurred the horse and said with a smile, "Then we will meet again if fate allows it." Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were hazy from the alcohol. She smiled and said, "Goodbye, Mu." Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu's receding figure and suddenly thought of something. She said loudly, "You, remember to participate in the sword duel tournament. If you can enter the finals, Father and I will attend your celebration feast." The night was cold, and she didn't know if he heard it. A royal guard held onto the reins of Qin Yin's mount and said, "Your Highness, shall we return to Zetian Palace? That person has gone far away." Qin Yin looked into the distance with her starry eyes. She blinked and said with a smile, let's send Xiaoxi back to the Duke of Seven Seas' residence first. Then, we'll return to Zetian Palace. Let's go. Lin Muyu and Chu Huaying sent Chu Yao back to the spiritual medicine department. Then, they turned and went straight to the Holy Palace. When the two guards in the Holy Palace saw his attire, they immediately saluted him with a solemn expression. "Lord Linji, you're back?" Lin Muyu nodded in acknowledgement and spurred her horse into the Holy Palace. After walking through the long corridor, just as they were about to go to the stables, a figure suddenly ran over. With the light from the torches, they could see the beard on his face. It was Zhang Wei. "Lord Zhang Wei, what's the matter?" Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei looked at the guards around them and said in a low voice, "Lord Lin Ji, there's something I have to tell you. But this isn't the place to talk. Come with me." Lin Muyu got off the horse and walked into the training hall with Zhang Wei. Then she asked, "Can you tell me now? What's the matter?" Zhang Wei gritted his teeth and said, "Brother, do you still remember Little Beansprout?" "Yes, of course I remember. Little Beansprout died tragically under Ouyang Qiu's sword. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. Little Beansprout's death was only exchanged for 500 Jin Yin coins. However, the 500 Jin Yin coins still didn't reach his parents." "What?" Lin Muyu's body trembled. She widened her eyes and looked at Zhang Wei. "What exactly happened?" Zhang Wei took a deep breath and said angrily, "Little Beansprout's hometown is the Luoxia village, outside of Yanlan City. His parents are still alive, but this morning I was ordered to bring the Holy Palace knights out to buy winter clothes. When I passed by Luoxia village, I saw that Little Beansprout's parents were killed by someone. The 500 Jin Yin coins also disappeared without a trace." "Damn it." Lin Muyu was furious. She was still tipsy and her face turned red. Could it be Zhen Fang and Ouyang Qiu's doing? Zhang Wei sighed. "Most likely. The two of us have already offended the Divine Marquis residents. It's expected that Zhen Fang would kill Little Beansprout's parents to vent his anger. It's all my fault for being careless. Otherwise, the two of them could have escaped this calamity. No, it's my fault." Lin Muyu clenched her fists in pain. Zhang Wei looked at her deeply. "Sir Lin Ji, Little Beansprout's parents shouldn't have been killed so unjustly, right? Even if we can't avenge Little Beansprout, we should at least avenge his parents." Lin Muyu nodded lightly. "Who is the person in charge of this case?" "The Fire Sparrow Division." Zhang Wei said blandly. "The Fire Sparrow Division is responsible for all murder cases in Lanyan City. However, the Fire Sparrow Division is part of the Ministry of Justice, and the Minister of Justice is a frequent visitor of the Divine Marquis residence. Once the Divine Marquis residence exerts pressure, the Fire Sparrow Division will not be able to find anything. Furthermore, I've already received news that the Fire Sparrow Division has confirmed that Little Beansprout's parents were killed by bandits. The 500 Jin Yin coins were the cause of their deaths." As he spoke, Zhang Wei punched the wall heavily. They died from a sword piercing through their throats. Half of their throats were shattered by the sword qi. There are only a handful of people in Lanyan City who have such sword skills. If it wasn't Ouyang Qiu, who else could it be? Lin Muyu nodded. "I understand. Let's go see Deacon Lei Hong." "Okay." The two of them led their horses straight to Lei Hong's residence. After knocking on the door a few times, Lei Hong floated out with a faint smile. "You, Zhang Wei, you, Sai, you shouldn't meddle in things that you shouldn't. There are so many injustices in this world, can you handle them all?" Clearly, Ham was very clear about Little Beansprout's matter. He knew the ins and outs of this matter better than anyone else. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "Grandpa Lei Hong, the temple is the temple of the Empire's martial artists. If even the temple can tolerate those madmen who kill the innocent, then what is the temple? Can it still be considered the martial spirit of the Empire's cultivators?" Aren't we cultivating martial arts to defend the empire and fight for the weak? Lei Hong was taken aback. These words, no one dares to say to me like this. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with pride. Grandpa Lei Hong, you are the deacon of the Divine Temple. You have to shoulder this burden even if you don't want to. Otherwise, you are not fit to be the deacon. Lei Hong's eyes widened. After a while, he shook his head helplessly. You stinking brat, I really don't know what to do with you. How could that old fellow Chu Chu accept such a stubborn disciple like you? Fine, I still have to give face to Chu Chu. Go get the horses and follow me to the Fire Sparrow Division. Thank you, Grandpa Lei Hong. Zhang Wei was also overjoyed. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Deacon. The Empire's Fire Sparrow Division was located on the right side of the Ministry of Justice. The entire building was connected together, and the main hall of the Fire Sparrow Division was like a fire sparrow soaring through the 9 heavens. It had an awe-inspiring and lifelike appearance. Outside the main hall, 8 guards stood guard with swords in their hands. The torches at the side flickered and flickered. The sound of hooves grew louder as Lei Hong, Lin Muyu, and Zhang Wei stopped their horses in front of the main hall. For you, the guard shouted. Rei Hum slowly lifted his cloak, revealing his aged face. So it's the temple's deacon. The group of guards knelt down. Lei Hong was not only the deacon, he was also one of the 6 white-robed royal guards of the empire. He had the right to have an audience with the emperor. Such an important person was not someone the guards could afford to offend. May I know why the deacon is visiting the Fire Sparrow Division so late at night? I want to see the Fire Sparrow Division's head Master Zhenggu. Master Zhenggu is already asleep. Please pass the message to him. Not long after, the guard returned and said, Deacon, please come in. Thank you. The guards led the group into the main hall of the Flamecracks Division. The attendants lit up the lanterns, illuminating the hall. A man dressed in the uniform of a civil official flew up to greet them, knelt on the ground and said, Subordinate Zhenggu, greets Deacon Lei Hong. Lei Hong helped him up and smiled. Master Zhenggu, there is no need to be so courteous. Get up, get up. May I know why the deacon is here? Why don't you tell him? Lin Muyu cupped her fists and told him about the tragic death of Little Beansprout's parents. After listening, Zhenggu's expression did not look too good. This case has already been closed. If you want to reopen it now, I'm afraid it will be a little abrupt. Lei Hong said lightly, Master Zhenggu, the Fire Sparrow Division is in charge of the Empire's criminal law. As the head of the Fire Sparrow Division, you can't just sit back and do nothing when you know someone has died unjustly, right? Zhenggu took a deep breath. This matter is of great importance. I'm afraid. Lei Hong waved his hand. You don't have to say any more. Write a document now, and hand over the authority to investigate this case to Lin Ji and Zhang Wei. This matter implicates our temple's people, and we need to clean them up. I have no choice but to interfere. Zhenggu gritted his teeth and nodded. Yes, but if the Divine Marquis Constabulary investigates, Lei Hong smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Don't worry, if the Divine Marquis Constabulary investigates, Lei Hong, will bear all responsibility. Thank you, I will write it now. In the middle of the night, Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei rode on their horses, dressed in the Holy Temple's general robes, heading straight out of the city. The 2 of them did not speak. The only thing they wanted to do was to punish the evil, and not let Shenfang cover the Holy Temple and Lanyan City with one hand. Lei Hong looked at their backs from afar. He had gone all out to support them this time. As the deacon of the Holy Temple, he had kept a low profile for so many years, but now he had actually done something so out of line. Even Lei Hong was a little surprised, but he was still in a good mood. In Lin Muyu, he could faintly see a version of himself that was neither humble nor submissive, but after the baptism of time, his sharpness had been worn down, and now that he saw Lin Muyu, he could not help but think of himself in the past. He sighed softly, but suddenly felt relieved. He felt that this child was like a ray of light that had illuminated the darkness of the empire for thousands of years. Chapter 79. It was a quiet night in Luoxia village. The villagers were all asleep, and the sound of the horses' hooves did not wake them up. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei went straight to the Firefinch division in the northwest of Luoxia village. Rather than calling it a division, it was more like a small courtyard. 2 officials were supervising the village, and the bodies of Little Beansprout's parents were kept here. "Who is it?" One of the officials opened the door in a drunken stupor and saw Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei in full armor. Both of them had the Holy Cathedral's gold and silver star badges on their necks. The official paused for a moment, and then respectfully said, "So it's the Lord of the Holy Cathedral. May I ask, why are you visiting the Firefinch division in the middle of the night?" Lin Muyu nodded, and took out a document for him to read. "Where are the bodies of Little Beansprout's parents? Can we bring them back?" Yes. When they saw the bodies, Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei's hearts clenched. The 2 elders' heads were crooked to one side, and there was a shocking hole in their necks. Their bones and flesh had all been crushed, so their heads could no longer be connected to their bodies. This is indeed Yangqiu's method of killing. Zhang Wei silently covered the bodies with a white cloth. Yangqiu is an expert in using his dou qi to shatter his opponent's body. This is the same as Little Beansprout's death. "We have the material evidence, we're just missing a witness." Lin Muyu said lightly, "We need to find a witness to prove that Yangqiu killed the 2 elders, otherwise we won't be able to convict him. Let's wait until tomorrow morning and go through the villagers one by one." The next morning, they went through the villagers one by one, and finally found a mute girl. She was acting crazily, and when she saw Lin Muyu and Yangqiu, she screamed as if she had seen a ghost. Lin Muyu hurried forward and pressed her shoulder, saying, "Miss, don't be afraid, we're not bad people, don't be afraid." The mute lady stared at the golden star of the temple on Lin Muyu's neck, and shook her head in horror, screaming out loud. The Fire Sparrow officer said, "Sir, this little girl is a deaf and mute lunatic, you won't be able to get anything out of her." "Really?" Lin Muyu smiled coldly. He saw the mute lady take out a gold star badge from her bosom. In front of the gold star was the shape of a sword. That was the badge of a gold star sparring master from the holy sanctum. Zhang Wei snatched it over and asked, "Miss, is this left behind by the murderer?" The little girl nodded. She was too afraid to look up at Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei. "It really is Yangqiu." Zhang Wei flipped the badge over and said, "Lin Ji, look, Yangqiu's name is engraved on the back. This is indeed unintentionally left behind by Yangqiu. This bastard really killed Little Beansprout's parents with his own hands." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. "Send Little Beansprout's parents back to Lanyan City, and bring this girl along. Yangqiu is dead meat." At noon, they arrived at the holy sanctum and handed over all the evidence to Deacon Guyang. The morning training had just ended, and the group of instructors and sparring masters were about to leave when they were gathered together again. Among them, Zhen Fang and Yangqiu were present. Lei Hong looked at them coldly and said, "Instructors who killed sparring masters by mistake do not have to pay with their lives, but if they intentionally killed multiple people, shouldn't they be punished according to the law?" "Great Deacon, what do you mean by this?" Zhen Fang asked. Lei Hong's voice was not angry, but it was imposing. Yangqiu, kneel." Yangqiu was startled and immediately knelt down, saying, "Great Deacon, what have I done wrong?" Lin Muyu took out a gold star badge and showed it to Yangqiu, saying, "When you killed Little Beansprout's parents, you left this in the bushes." "What?" Yangqiu's face paled. "Lin Ji, don't slander me." Lei Hong said indifferently, "Fire Sparrow Division's people will be here soon, this matter will be resolved." Yangqiu, don't be nervous, if you really killed them on purpose, I will definitely clean up the sect. With the power of the holy sanctum, even if you didn't kill them, I will not accuse you." "Lin Ji, you bastard, you just want to kill me, don't you?" Yangqiu's eyes were filled with anger. Lin Muyu did not speak, only looking at him coldly. Zhen Fang stared coldly at Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei, and couldn't help but sneer, "Lin Ji, Lord Zhang Wei, you guys are so impressive, you even dared to snatch Fire Sparrow C's job. Our divine temple is indeed full of heroes. in order to kill one of our own, you guys are willing to resort to such underhanded means. Ouyang Qiu is from the Divine Marquis Constabulary. I want to see what Fire Sparrow C can do to him. Lei Hong said coldly, Little Marquis, always leave some leeway, don't push things too far. Zhen Fang raised his eyebrows. Lei Hong, don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you're white-robed Imperial Forest. If you dare touch Ouyang Qiu, go ahead and try, I will make you suffer. Is that so? Then let's wait and see. Lei Hong smiled lightly. Not long after, Fire Sparrow Division sent more than 10 people, including Zheng Gu himself. In a short span of 10 minutes, all the evidence and witnesses were present. Zheng Gu said lightly, according to the law, Ouyang Qiu should be executed immediately. Ouyang Qiu's body trembled. He quickly turned to Zhen Fang. Little Marquis, save me. Zhen Fang stepped forward, took out a golden token and said, Wait, Ouyang Qiu is from the Divine Marquis Palace. He is a noble. I will use the Divine Marquis Palace's golden token to protect his life. No one can kill Ouyang Qiu. Zheng Gu was stunned. He looked at Lei Hong awkwardly. Lei Hong stroked his beard and smiled. The Divine Marquis Palace's golden token will protect his life. There is no problem. But the Holy Sanctum also has its own rules. Ouyang Qiu killed someone, he should accept the challenge trial. Little Marquis, what do you think? I will be the witness. Trial? Zhen Fang was stunned. The so-called challenge trial was a type of duel, a battle to determine life and death. After a noble killed someone, the relatives and friends of the victim could challenge the killer once, and they would not be held accountable. This was an unwritten rule, and it was very popular in the Qin Empire where martial arts were the norm. Ouyang Qiu seemed to see hope. He laughed coldly. Little Beansprout is already dead. Who can challenge him on his behalf? In the entire Holy Sanctum, Ouyang Qiu's swordsmanship cultivation could be counted on one hand. There were not many people who could defeat him in a one-on-one fight, and Little Beansprout was a copper star sparring master. He only had a few close friends, and none of them were a match for Ouyang Qiu. At this time, Lin Muyu slowly took a step forward and said, If there is really a challenge, then let me challenge Lord Ouyang Qiu. Little Beansprout is my friend, and today, I will reclaim the dignity of the Holy Sanctum's sparring masters. Lin Ji. Ouyang Qiu couldn't help but sneer. You're just a third-tier Earth Realm sparring partner. You've made a name for yourself in the Holy Palace. Do you really think you can defeat me? Lin Muyu smiled calmly. We will know after the battle. Ouyang Qiu's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. If you lose, I will not hesitate to tear your heart into pieces, dig it out, and feed it to the dogs. I, Ouyang Qiu, am a man of my words. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. I will also kill you as a sacrifice to Little Beansprout's parents, or else I am not worthy of being his friend. Lei Hong smiled faintly. 10 minutes later, the duel will take place in the main hall. Lord Jinggu and I will be the witnesses. Jinggu nodded happily. I am willing to listen to your orders. Lin Ji, you are crazy. Qin Xiling gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Ouyang Qiu's imperial sword technique has already reached perfection. Although your defense is strong, you are definitely not his match. Also, Ouyang Qiu really wants to kill this time. If you lose, he will kill you. The rules of the trial state that no one can interfere, even if the head deacon wants to save you. Don't worry, Xiling. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder, smiled and said, If I am not confident, I will not challenge him. Yes, I hope you can avenge Little Beansprout. The surrounding sparring masters were indignant after knowing the truth. Little Beansprout's situation was exactly the same as theirs. The strong preying on the weak made them feel fear. One after another, they all cheered for Lin Muyu. Lin Ji, do your best to defeat him. Kill Ouyang Qiu, this scum of the instructors. Lin Ji, fight for the honor of us sparring partners. Don't lose, Lin Ji. Unknowingly, it seemed that Lin Muyu had already become the hope and soul of the temple's sparring masters. Lei Hong watched from the side and was secretly gratified. Temple needed this kind of hope. If the instructors and sparring masters were always one-sided, then Temple would never prosper. Ouyang Qiu was already preparing. He used the Scarlet Mantis to sharpen the edge of the sword. The scarlet mantis was a type of hard stone. It was also the best whetstone in the empire. When he was sharpening the sword, his voice also seemed to be a kind of contempt and provocation to his opponent. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's willpower was stronger than his. She did not care at all. The trial, prepare to begin. Deacon Guyang shouted loudly. Yangqiu jumped and stood in the center of the hall, his battle boots stomping on the stone floor. Immediately a wave of battle energy appeared. His martial soul also wrapped around his shoulders. The corner of his mouth curled up in a disdainful smile. Lin Ji, you are courting death. Lin Muyu walked step by step to the center of the hall. About 10 meters away from him, he lightly shouted. A wave of air surged around his body. This time, he did not summon the black tortoise shell or the dragon scale wall. Lin Ji gave up on defense. Is he crazy? One of the instructors said in shock. Zhang Wei frowned. Courting death. Yangqiu let out a roar. His entire body was covered with battle energy. He opened his palms and used his qi to control the sword, charging toward Lin Muyu. Before he even got close to her, he had already condensed the energy of dozens of blades made of battle energy and attacked. Lin Muyu saw the opportunity. She raised her left palm, and the wind element that she had been accumulating for a long time burst out. This was the energy of the wind sword, the wind sword. Even though this energy was not enough to destroy Yangqiu's attack, it could greatly delay the time of his attack. She opened her right palm, and purple lightnings suddenly flickered. The burning prairie sword was unsheathed by itself, and under the guidance of the lightning, it shot toward Yangqiu at lightning speed. The speed was so fast that it left everyone in the hall dumbfounded. No one had ever seen an attack with such speed and momentum. Wild thunder wave. Lightning circled around the burning prairie sword, carrying with it an unstoppable force. This was the attack that Lin Muyu had given up on defense, and she had converted all of her strength into an attack. The burning prairie sword directly pierced through Yangqiu's qi armor, and in the next moment, lightning began to wreak havoc. Clang! Yangqiu raised his sword in an attempt to block, but his sword was instantly shattered by the sharp burning prairie sword. Immediately after, the burning prairie sword pierced through his heart and heavily nailed into the pillar behind him. Yangqiu stood there in disbelief. He lowered his head to look at the armor in front of his chest and saw that the armor in front of his chest had been pierced through, and his heart was almost burnt to a crisp. In an instant, his mind had already gone blank. Chapter 80. Peng! A speck of dust flew up, and Yangqiu's heavy armor fell heavily to the ground. His eyes were blank, and his breathing had stopped at this moment. The hall was dead silent, and everyone stood there with their mouths agape. Even the sound of a needle falling to the ground could be heard. Including Lei Hong, no one could have guessed this result. The Gold Star instructor, Yangqiu, was killed by Lin Muyu in a single move. How? How is this possible? Guyang rubbed his eyes and said, Yangqiu? He was the #1 swordsman of the sacred sanctum. How could he be killed by Lin Ji in a single move? Zhen Fang's eyes widened, and his body trembled. He did not dare to believe the truth in front of him, but Yangqiu was still lying there, and his defeat was a fact. In fact, the biggest reason why Yangqiu was defeated in a single move was because he had underestimated Lin Muyu. He did not expect Lin Muyu to also have grasped the imperial sword technique, and he did not expect that the kid's imperial sword technique would be so fast. Sha sha. Zhang Wei strode forward with steady steps and pulled out the dagger from his waist. He knelt down on one knee in front of Yangqiu's corpse and grabbed his hair. Then he used the dagger to slowly slice his neck. Zhang Wei, what are you doing? Zhen Fang shouted angrily. Zhang Wei did not stop, and in a few seconds, he had already cut off Yangqiu's head. He held it in his hand and laughed. He was just a sinner who died because of a trial, and I want to use his head to pay homage to Little Bean Sprout and his parents. But don't you think this is what you should do? Zhen Fang's face contorted, and his face was full of anger. Zhang Wei, you really have the guts to eat a bear's heart and a leopard's heart. Zhang Wei was originally full of guts, and he smiled slightly. I only did what I had to do. Lord Lin Ji, you won beautifully. Lin Ji stood there silently. He hadn't killed anyone for a long time, but he couldn't suppress his killing intent at that moment. If he didn't kill Ouyangqiu today, he would be letting down his true self. Lei Hong, who was standing at the side, smiled faintly and raised his voice. There is no need to quarrel, the verdict is out, Lin Ji is the winner. Ouyangqiu is a gold star instructor of the Holy Sanctum, yet he intentionally killed someone. His death cannot wipe out his crimes. Today, Ouyangqiu will be stripped of all his titles and salary, he will be removed from the Holy Sanctum. We should all take him as a warning, not to kill the innocent, not to be cruel and ruthless. The group of instructors and sparring partners cupped their fists. Yes, Grand Deacon. Raham smiled and said, Men, bury Ouyangqiu's body with the etiquette of a commoner. Everyone is dismissed. After lunch, afternoon training will continue as usual. Linji, you stay behind. Yes. The group dispersed, only Lin Muyu remained in the hall, asking, Grandpa Raham, what's the matter? Raham sighed. Even though you are talented, you are too reckless. Your actions today have completely offended the Divine Marquis residence. I'm afraid that your future days will not be good. The Divine Marquis residence has many claws and teeth in Lanyan City. I'm afraid that if you continue like this, you will definitely suffer at their hands. How about this? Raham thought for a moment, then said, From today onwards, you will continue to train in the secret chamber. Other than the daily sparring partners, do not take a single step out of the Holy Sanctum. I will strengthen the security of the Holy Sanctum. At least we will not allow anyone to easily sneak into the Holy Sanctum. Lin Muyu knew that this was Raham's way of protecting her, and that she really didn't know the depth of the Divine Marquis residence, so she cupped her fists and said, Yes, I will follow Grandpa Raham's arrangements. And that's good. Raham was slightly gratified, even though this kid's actions were always unexpected, but to be able to listen to his advice was already not bad. That night, in the brightly lit Divine Marquis residence. Bang! The teacup on the table bounced a few times, spilling tea all over the table, and the aroma of tea wafted through the air. Zheng Yifan, the Divine Marquis of the Empire, was known as the God of War, but the current Zheng Yifan no longer had the elegance of his youth. His thin face was covered with the traces of time, only the light in his eyes remained the same. He clenched his fists and said in a low voice, This is simply ridiculous. Killing people in the Holy Sanctum is one thing, but they actually dared to kill people in Luo Xia village. Ouyangqiu deserved his death. Zheng Fang had not seen his father so angry for many years. He knelt on the ground, trembling, and said, Father, but Ouyangqiu was a guest of the Divine Marquis residence. No matter what, we can't let him die like this. What else can we do? Zheng Yifan's deep gaze fell on Zheng Fang. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes. You disappoint me. Why did I send you into the Holy Sanctum? It was because I hoped that you would be able to cultivate peerless martial arts and extraordinary loyalty, but you only learned some lowly tricks in the Holy Sanctum. Don't say any more, otherwise I'll send you to the ascetic tower for 3 years. Zheng Fang's face was ashen. He was so scared that he could not speak. At this moment, a beautiful young girl carrying a tea tray slowly walked forward. She was dressed in clothes whiter than snow and had a face as beautiful as jade. She put down the tray and massaged Zheng Yifan's shoulders. She smiled and said, Father, don't be angry at little brother. He's just young and impetuous. If you really lock him up in the ascetic pagoda, I'm afraid he'll become an ignorant piece of trash when he comes out in 3 years. The anger on Zheng Yifan's face subsided a little. He said, Xiang, you spoil your younger brother too much. Look at him. Where does he look like the young master of the Divine Marquis residence? He only knows how to befriend useless people all day long. This girl was Zheng Yifan's daughter, Zheng Xiang, Zheng Fang's older sister. Zheng Xiang smiled and said, Father, let's forget about this matter. Ouyangqiu was the one who killed first. It was indeed his fault, and he died during the trial challenge. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Zheng Yifan nodded. Yes, I know, Xiang, go and rest first. I'll think about it carefully. Yes, sir. Zheng Xiang turned and left. After sensing that Zheng Xiang had gone far away, Zheng Yifan's eyes lit up. He said, that brat named Lin Muyu killed Ouyang Qiu. This is no different from provoking the divine marquis residence. Lei Hong was so protective of Lin Muyu. Isn't he looking down on the divine marquis residence? Since that old thing Lei Hong is not afraid of the divine marquis residence, then don't blame me for being rude. As he spoke, Zheng Yifan took a deep breath. After breathing in and out True Yuan, he smiled faintly. Elder Song, I'm afraid you'll need to personally come out this time. Divine Marquis, I'll do my best. An ethereal voice came from the sky. Zheng Fang hurriedly looked up and smiled in surprise. Grandpa Tsang is in the capital? Aren't you going to welcome him? Zheng Yifan smiled. Zheng Fang hurriedly turned around to open the door, only to see a sage-like old man under the moonlight, holding an iron staff in his hand, the corners of his mouth curled up with a doting smile. You've grown up so much. Grandpa Tsang, why are you here in Lanyan City? Didn't I want to see you in Xiang? The old man stepped into the hall, and an invisible force of the sanctuary rippled with every step he took. Zheng Yifan smiled. Congratulations, Elder Tsang, you finally entered the sanctuary. The old man looked up with a smile. Greetings, divine Marquis. No need to be so polite. Take a seat. Yes. Tsang Baihe, one of the few experts in the empire, was once a guest of the divine marquis residence. He followed Zheng Yifan to conquer the north and the south, but he went into hiding when the Radiant King was rewarding the officials. Now that he had reappeared in Lanyan City, he would surely bring about a bloodbath. Elder Tsang, you should know about the divine temple openly provoking the divine marquis residence, right? Zheng Yifan said casually as he personally brewed tea. Tsang Baihe nodded. I've heard a little, but the divine temple is not easy to deal with. Although many of the experts have retired, Lei Hong is still around. Although the divine marquis residence has many talents, they might not be able to gain the upper hand in a direct confrontation with Lei Hong. After all, other than Lei Hong, there are still Guyang and a bunch of old guys with a cultivation of heaven state. I think the divine marquis would not want to fight Lei Hong directly, right? Zheng Yifan could not help but smile. The one who knows me best, Tsang Baihe. As he said this, a glint flashed across his eyes. Lei Hong ordered Lin Muyu to kill Ouyang Qiu. He is using a borrowed knife to kill him. If he can make a move, then so can we. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei are both Lei Hong's trusted aides. Within 3 days, I want to see both of them crippled. Tsang Baihe smiled, his eyes flashing with killing intent. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu had been staying in the divine temple to cultivate. She had become more proficient in the 4 elemental sword kinesis, and at the same time, she was also cultivating the forging dragon bone remnant scroll. The more she cultivated, the more she could feel the wonders of the forging dragon bone remnant scroll. Every 2 days, Lin Muyu could circulate the mental cultivation method of the forging dragon bone remnant scroll 72 times, after which she could feel the increase in her strength. However, Lin Muyu was cultivating in secret. She did not know that danger was approaching. Late at night, the Tong Tian Street's Tavern Street was dark. Big girl, chest trembling, swaying to the left, swaying to the right, making my heart sway. A messy and vulgar song came out of the drunken Zhang Wei's mouth. He held the railing with one hand and a wine pot with the other as he walked out of the tavern. He was drunk again today. In fact, this was also Zhang Wei's daily life. Zhang Wei loved alcohol as much as his life. It was his biggest weakness. There were not many people on the street. Suddenly, a murderous intent shrouded down from the sky. Who? Zhang Wei quickly sobered up from the shock, and with a shout, he finished the blessing of his martial soul. His body was covered in raging flames, and his fists danced in the air. Fists surrounded by flames exploded in the air, and he roared, "Get out here!" Zhang Wei's unique skill, Fiery Soul Fist. A loud laugh came from the sky. Zhang Wei's Fiery Soul Fist, it really has some of the style of Xiang Wen's Fiery Fist, but the level of fire is too far off. Kneel for me. A powerful invisible domain power descended, and the bricks of the city collapsed. Zhang Wei's fists immediately cracked, and his knees involuntarily knelt down. In the face of absolute power, he did not even have the chance to punch. Looking up, an old man appeared in front of him, but he did not recognize him. "Who are you?" "I'm crippling your man." The person suddenly appeared behind Zhang Wei in a flash, and a sharp sword was unsheathed. In the middle of the night, a miserable howl echoed on Tong Tian Street. Chapter 81. Lord Lin Ji, wake up. A servant's voice came from outside the room. Lin Muyu woke up from his sleep, his aura swirling around him as he asked, "What's wrong?" "Something has happened to Lord Zhang Wei." "Ah." After a shudder, Lin Muyu was no longer sleepy. He grabbed his clothes and rushed out of the room. Not far away, a cluster of torches flickered in the direction of the training hall. When he got closer, he saw Zhang Wei's bloodied body lying on a long stone at the side of the training hall. Lei Hong, Guyang, and the other deacons of the Holy Temple were already there. What happened to Zhang Wei? Lin Muyu rushed forward and shook Zhang Wei's arm. He didn't move and checked if he was still breathing. He couldn't help but look up. "What happened, Grandpa Lei Hong?" Lei Hong's face was ashen as he said, "Zhang Wei was attacked on Tong Tian Street. You, look at the wound on Zhang Wei's back and you'll know." Two Iron Star instructors walked forward and lifted Zhang Wei's body, only to see that both sides of his spine had been completely minced by the sword qi. It was a bloody mess. Lin Muyu couldn't bear to look at it and turned his head. "Who could be so cruel?" Guyang said with a trembling voice. "You, the most cruel thing is not to kill, but to turn people into cripples. The dragon tendons on both sides of Zhang Wei's spine have been destroyed." "Dragon tendons?" He was stunned. Lei Hong said coldly, "The dragon tendons are the two sides of the spine to exert force, just like the string of a longbow. Once the dragon tendons are destroyed, the cultivator's qi and qi will not be able to circulate throughout the body. This person didn't kill Zhang Wei, but turned him into a cripple who can no longer practice martial arts." "What?" Lin Muyu's eyes widened. "Who is it?" "What do you think?" Reiham said calmly, "No matter what, Zhang Wei is an expert who is about to step into the heavenly realm. The person who can subdue Zhang Wei with one move is probably at least in the Saint Domain. After the Winter Ridge Rebellion hundreds of years ago, there were only a handful of Saint Domain experts in the Empire. I can more or less guess who it is," Guyang said from the side. "For now, the most important thing to do is to think of a way to save Zhang Wei. He is our Silver Star instructor and is about to be promoted to Gold Star instructor. Once he becomes a cripple, his life will be over. Call the people from the Spiritual Medicine Department over immediately." Not long after, a group of white-robed medical officers from the Spirit Medicine Department entered the temple. They quickly stopped the bleeding and treated Zhang Xian's injuries. However, their progress did not seem to be very smooth. When the sun rose, the attendant of the Spirit Medicine Department looked at Reiham apologetically and said, "Lord Reiham, Zhang Wei's injuries are too severe. His dragon tendons have been completely shattered and cannot be healed. He can no longer practice martial arts." Reiham had already guessed that this would be the result. He sighed and smiled. "Thank you all. It wasn't easy to save his life." The attendant of the Spirit Medicine Department bowed and left. At this time, Zhang Wei woke up. He lay motionless on the bed, but his fierce eyes were fixed on Reiham. "Chief Attendant, Zhang Wei." Reiham's body trembled. "It's okay. You will be healed." Zhang Wei was surprisingly calm, but there was a trace of despair in his eyes. "Chief Attendant, you don't have to comfort me. I know I'm crippled. My dragon tendons have been severed. Even the gods can't save me." As he spoke, Zhang Wei looked at Lin Muyu and smiled. Lin Muyu walked forward and held onto the bed. "Don't talk. Rest well." Zhang Wei smiled. "I just want to remind you that there are two people who have offended the Divine Marquis residents. One is me, and I have already been avenged. The other is you. Lin Ji, don't underestimate your enemy. The person who ambushed me is very strong. I'm afraid his strength is comparable to Chief Attendant's. You must be careful. I, Zhang Wei, have a worthless life." Lin Muyu's voice was calm and determined. "I can heal you. You, Don't joke around. Raham said. The dragon tendons are the foundation of a cultivator. Once they are severed, even the gods can't save you. Moreover, Zhang Wei's dragon tendons were not severed, but crushed. No, Grandpa Raham, you must believe me. Lin Muyu's eyes were very clear. Zhang Wei, you must believe me too. Don't give up. I will definitely heal your dragon tendons and restore them to their original state. Zhang Wei did not know what he was thinking. He nodded and smiled. Then I'll have to trouble Master Lin Ji. Outside the door, Raham said with some reproach. Even if you want to comfort Zhang Wei, you don't have to lie, right? No, I'm serious. Raham turned around, his eyes filled with suspicion. How can you heal Zhang Wei's injuries? Grandpa Raham, have you heard of a medicine called tendon replenishing powder? Lin Muyu asked seriously. Lei Hong was immediately startled. Gu Yang, who was standing to the side, stroked his beard and said, I've heard of a book in the Zhe Tian Hall's library. There's a level 10 medicine called the muscle replenishing powder that can regenerate muscles and bones, but this is only a legend. There hasn't been an alchemy god on this continent for hundreds of years, so who would have the ability to refine the muscle replenishing powder? Lin Muyu did not say much. Then give me some time. Yes. Raham nodded. I'll allow you half a month's leave. Is that okay? Thank you, Grandpa Raham. Go. He led a sturdy warhorse from the temple stable and galloped toward the trading center of Lanyan City. At the same time, he tried his best to recall the recipe for the tendon replenishing powder. Dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass were 2 level 10 medicinal herbs that were very rare. He would try his luck at the Empire's medicine shop. As he galloped, he called out, Lulu. The beautiful elven official flew out. She was still wearing a green dress that was as thin as a cicada's wings in the cold autumn weather. She smiled and said, Brother, what's the matter? Did you see dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass when you were drawing the map in the dragon-seeking forest? If you did, mark them on the map for me, okay? Lin Muyu said urgently. Lulu sat on his shoulder and shook her head. I haven't seen them. They're too rare. Also, Lulu's spiritual energy isn't enough to fly too far. Okay, I'll go ask myself. Not long after, Lin Muyu arrived at the Imperial Merchant Firm and immediately went to find Third Fatty Jean. Third Fatty Jean immediately beamed when he saw Lin Muyu. Master, are you going to buy some 7-colored lotuses again? I've already prepared them for you. No need. Lin Muyu shook her head and asked, Boss Jean, do you have dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass for sale? Third Fatty Jean was stunned. They're both level 10 medicinal herbs? Yes. Do you have them? Third Fatty Jean said awkwardly, although there are all sorts of medicinal herbs in the Imperial Trading Center, we don't have the 2 that you want. It said that dragon tendon vine only grows in the gaps in the spine of a dragon, and its fertilizer is dragon tendon. Luminous nightgrass is no different from other weeds. The only thing special about it is that it can emit light at night. We don't have either. Then, thank you. Lin Muyu felt a little lonely. She thought of Zhang Wei's miserable appearance. In a sense, Zhang Wei ended up like this because of her. Even if she had to do everything she could, she had to heal his crippled body. This was what a man should do. When he saw Lin Muyu's disappointed expression, Third Fatty Jean smiled. I heard that the Duke of Seven Seas' residence has many precious medicinal herbs. Many of them were collected by Duke Kanglin's people. Master, you can try your luck at the Duke of Seven Seas' residence. If you really can't find them, with your status as the Divine Palace's Golden Star, you should be able to go to the Zhe Tian Palace's Medicine Pavilion. You might be able to find them. Thank you. Lin Muyu nodded, turned around and left the medicine shop. In less than 10 minutes, the warhorse stopped in front of the Duke of Seven Seas' residence. Lin Muyu dismounted and carried the burning prairie sword on her back. She cupped her fists at the guards and said, Divine Palace's Lin Ji requests an audience with Princess Shi. Please help me pass the message. One of the guards nodded respectfully and returned not long after entering the residence. He performed an empire's military salute and said, "Lord Lin Ji, the princess invites you in. She's waiting for you in the front hall." "Thank you." The Duke of Seven Seas' residence was like a large garden. It made Lin Muyu feel like he was entering a tiger hill. There were guards all along the way, as if to show off the strength of the Seven Seas city's army. The front hall was not far away. When he arrived, Tang Xiaoxi had already walked out in a beautiful red and white dress. Her little boots stepped on the red maple leaves on the ground. She smiled and said, "Mu, you finally saw me?" Looking at Tang Xiaoxi's happy and beautiful face, he was a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and said, "Xiaoxi, I actually came here with a request." "Humph, I knew it." "Say it, what's the matter?" Tang Xiaoxi was not unhappy at all. "I heard that the Duke of Seven Seas' residence has stored many precious medicinal herbs. I especially need 2 kinds of medicinal herbs now. I wonder if Xiaoxi can help," he said very awkwardly. Tang Xiaoxi blinked her beautiful eyes and said, "Actually, I'm not very clear about the classification of the medicinal herbs in the residence. But since you need them, let's go and take a look." Tang Xiaoxi reached out and pulled him into the depths of the residence. They found the official in charge of safekeeping in the medicinal herb storehouse. In the end, after looking through the records for a long time, they couldn't find the 2 medicinal herbs. Lin Muyu felt a little disappointed and her brows furrowed. "Do you need these 2 medicinal herbs urgently?" Tang Xiaoxi asked with concern. To save my life." Lin Muyu murmured. "The medicinal essence of the dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass, as well as the blood of the needlepoint bird, can be refined into a level 10 medicine called tendon replenishment powder. The greatest effect of tendon replenishment powder is to regenerate the muscles and bones. It has the effect of almost bringing the dead back to life." Tang Xiaoxi's eyes widened. You're doing this to save Zhang Wei, aren't you?" Lin Muyu did not deny it. She looked deeply at Tang Xiaoxi and said, "Zhang Wei is my friend. He was killed because he went with me to investigate the case of Little Beansprout's parents. Now that Zhang Wei's tendons have been crushed by a mysterious expert, I have no reason to stand by and do nothing." Tang Xiaoxi clasped her hands in front of her and suddenly smiled. "Although we can find the dragon tendon vine and luminous nightgrass in the Duke of Seven Seas' residence, but we still have a place to try our luck. Who knows, there might be some." "What place?" "The medicine pavilion of Zetian Palace." Tang Xiaoxi was smiling brightly in the slight autumn wind, and the bow knot on her hair was like a fiery red butterfly. Chapter 82. When it was close to noon, 2 warhorses stopped outside the palace gates of Zetian Palace. Tang Xiaoxi dismounted and walked forward with Lin Muyu. A group of imperial guards also came forward to greet them. "Princess Shi." An imperial guard respectfully greeted. Tang Xiaoxi said, "Please help me pass a message to Her Highness Yin. Tell her that Tang Xiaoxi requests an audience with her." The imperial guard quickly mounted his horse and rode for a full 10 minutes before returning. He cupped his fists together and said, "Her Highness Yin is practicing archery in Phoenix Perching Palace. Let me bring Princess Shi and Lin Ji there." "Many thanks." They quickly mounted their horses and galloped all the way to the imperial palace. This was Lin Muyu's first time entering Zetian Palace, and it was an indescribable novelty to her. Inside Zetian Palace, the white jade floor shimmered with a luster. In the distance, there were palaces shrouded in mist. Floating windows carved from blue tiles shone with the luster of crystal and jade. Every 10 steps, there was a sentry post of the Imperial Guard. Not only was this place as rich as a mountain of gold and a sea of jade, but the security here was also extraordinarily tight. After passing through palace after palace, they finally arrived at Phoenix Perching Palace. This was Qin Yin's residence. The continuous palace terrace left Lin Muyu speechless. It was too luxurious. She lived in such a large house by herself. She originally thought that living in a villa in the real world was already considered luxurious, but compared to Qin Yin's residence, it was simply simple and unadorned. Outside of Phoenix Perching Palace was a martial arts practice field. Amidst the clattering of horse hooves, eldest Princess Qin rode a fine horse in a golden cloak. She held a very exquisite bow in her hand, and the golden power of the god-binding chains surrounded her. She let go of the reins in her left hand and drew the bow with both hands, aiming at a target in the distance. Put! With a soft sound, the arrow hit the bullseye. Immediately, the maid at the side smiled and said, "Your Highness, good archery." But at this moment, Qin turned her eyes to another place. She jumped off the horse and ran straight to Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu, letting her gold-rimmed boots step on the gravel ground. "Xiao Shi, you're finally here." Tang Xiaoxi held the reins and said with a smile, "Xiao Mu and I are here for some business. Take us to the medicine pavilion. Mumu is in urgent need of 2 level 10 herbs. You must help him." Qin was startled. Her gaze landed on Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, "Since that's the case, let's go to the hidden medicine pavilion. I know the manager there, so you can freely enter and exit." Yes, yes. When the 3 of them arrived at the hidden medicine pavilion, they could indeed freely enter and exit. After all, Qin Yin's beautiful face was already a pass. She was the beloved daughter of the radiant prince, Qin Jin. She had awakened the god-binding lock martial soul at a young age, establishing her position as the successor of the empire. Even Qin Jin and the previous emperor had not awakened the god-binding lock, but among the younger generation of the Qin clan, Qin Yin and Qin Lei had already awakened the god-binding lock. They were known as a generation full of hope. But unfortunately, the 3 of them almost went through the hidden medicine pavilion's name list, but they still could not find the dragon tendon vine and luminous night grass. At this time, the manager at the side said carefully, "Your Highness, these 2 herbs have disappeared for many years. They are not in the hidden medicine pavilion either." This humble servant heard that there is a place in the depths of the dragon-seeking forest called the Dragon's Tomb. That is the burial ground of the dragon clan. If we can find the dragon's tomb, I'm afraid we can get as many dragon tendon vines as we want. It's just that the depths of the dragon-seeking forest are too dangerous, so the alchemists are unable to reach there. Is that so? Qin blinked her eyes that were as deep as the starry sky. She smiled and said, "Then why not?" Lin Muyu suddenly had a bad feeling. In the end, Tang Xiaoxi immediately responded with a smile, "Why don't we take the opportunity to go to the dragon-seeking forest?" At the side, the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, retorted sternly, "Nonsense. Even I don't know where the dragon's tomb is. Moreover, you should know very well how dangerous the dragon-seeking forest is. One of you is the heir of the Qin clan, and the other is the princess of the Seven Seas Tang sect. Your identities are so special. Stop fooling around. You must not go to the dragon-seeking forest." As he said that, Feng Jixing glared at the manager of the hidden medicine pavilion and said, "I will not report the matter of you encouraging His Highness to go to the dragon-seeking forest for now. If it happens again, your head will definitely be removed." The manager hurriedly knelt and begged for mercy, "Lord Commander, please spare my life. I didn't do it on purpose. Don't kneel before me. I'm so young I can't take it. Hurry up and get up. Otherwise, my saber will drink blood, yes." At the side, Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Big brother Feng, don't scare me like that." Feng Jixing could not help but laugh. "I was pretending to be so serious, but you still managed to see through me." At this moment, Qin had already turned around and left the hidden medicine pavilion with Tang Xiaoxi. As she mounted her horse, Feng Jixing hurriedly chased after her and asked loudly, "Your Highness, what are you going to do?" "Greetings, Father. I've already reached the level 59 bottleneck. I'm going to the dragon-seeking forest to train and break through." Feng Jixing complained incessantly. He had really poked a hornet's nest this time. This capricious princess of the empire was going to the dragon-seeking forest again. Nothing good ever came out of it, and this time would most likely not be an exception. The Zetian Palace was resplendent and magnificent. It was close to noon, and the emperor, Qin Jin, was holding a banquet for his officials. The Minister of War, the Ministry of Justice, as well as the commanders of the various armies that lived in the imperial capital were all present. Qin Jin held a jade cup in his hand and said with a smile, "Come, come, come. My subjects, let's have a toast together." Everyone held their cups with both hands and treated it like a precious treasure. If anyone were to spill the wine bestowed by the emperor, it was possible that their heads would roll on the ground. At this moment, the eunuch outside announced loudly, "Her Highness Qin Yin has arrived. Commander Feng Jixing has arrived. Princess Tang Xiaoxi has arrived. And that brat, who are you? You're not allowed to enter. Imperial guards, take him down. Imperial guards, stand down. This is my friend." Qin Yin's voice rang out. Qin Jin couldn't help but put down his cup, a helpless expression on his face. He loved and hated this daughter of his. He loved her excellence and beauty, and hated her willfulness and unruliness. However, perhaps love was 99%, and hatred was only 1%. This was the feelings a father had for his daughter. He raised his head and said, "Let them in. Men, prepare a seat for Her Highness Yin." Qin Yin had already entered the palace wearing the cloak of the Qin clan. She smiled and said, "Imperial father." The clear and sweet voice immediately made Qin Jin lose the mood to even be angry. She said in an amused and annoyed tone, "Xiao Yin, what's wrong with you now? You're already a 20-year-old lady. Shouldn't you learn to be more dignified? You're the heir of the clan. Feng Jixing, tell me, what is she trying to do?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, Her Highness, she said that she wants to enter the dragon-seeking forest again to train and seek to break through to the heaven realm. This general thinks that this is inappropriate. The dragon-seeking forest is too dangerous." Qin Yin glanced at Feng Jixing, the general meaning of her gaze saying that he still had some conscience and didn't mention the matter of the dragon tomb. Otherwise, Imperial Father definitely wouldn't allow it. "Oh, you're going to the dragon-seeking forest again?" Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. "It hasn't been too long since we went to the dragon-seeking forest. Xiao Yin, why do you want to go again?" Qin Yin pouted and raised her palm. A golden chain coiled around her graceful body like a real dragon. She walked forward step by step and said with a smile, "Imperial Father, look, your daughter's god-binding chains has already been cultivated to the limit of the 5th level. If I don't experience a battle to break through, I'm afraid I'll become a piece of trash." "Nonsense, how can the god-binding chains be trash?" Qin Jin's tone was a bit stricter, but when he saw Qin Yin's red eyes and aggrieved expression, his heart immediately softened. He said, "Go then, but you can only go within the boundaries of the clan's hunting grounds." "How can that be?" Qin Yin raised her face to look at her father on the throne. "The spirit beasts in the hunting grounds are too weak. Even if I kill them, they won't help me break through. Imperial Father, just allow me to enter the depths of the dragon-seeking forest to cultivate?" "You," Qin Jin sighed helplessly and asked, "My subjects, Her Highness wants to enter the dragon-seeking forest to cultivate. Who do you think is the most suitable person to send to protect her?" The minister stood up and said, "Your Majesty, Lord Qin Lei, the son of King Yuning and the commander of the imperial army, is quite strong. Moreover, he grew up with Her Highness and can be considered to be childhood sweethearts. It is most suitable for him to lead an elite troop to escort Her Highness to cultivate." Qin Ji nodded. Do you have any other suggestions?" Another minister stood up and said, "Your Majesty, this humble subject suggests that the commander of the imperial army, Feng Jixing, also lead 1,000 elite cavalry from the imperial army to go with her. After all, Her Highness is the crown prince and the heir of the clan. Her safety must be guaranteed. It is a pity that only the 2 of the 6 white-robed imperial guards can be dispatched at any time. Lei Hong is in charge of the Divine Hall and can't split himself up. Chu Chu, on the other hand, has nothing better to do. Otherwise, it would be best for Lord Chu Chu to escort Her Highness." Qin Jin smiled slightly. "Then it is decided. Commander Feng Jixing, you will lead 2,000 elite cavalry from the imperial army to escort the princess to the dragon-seeking forest. Qin Lei, you will lead 100 Imperial Guards to protect Her Highness at all times. Do you all understand? Feng Jixing and Qin Lei knelt on one knee and cupped their fists. As you command. In the afternoon, the people outside the Zetian Palace were shouting and the horses neighing. A total of over 2,000 troops set out together, heading straight for the dragon-seeking forest. Qin Yin was filled with helplessness. She had originally thought that she could train in the dragon-seeking forest with Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu. She had never thought that it would soon become an attack by the entire army. However, she could not do anything about it. After all, as the heir of the clan, this might be the price to pay for being above the masses. Qin Lei and Feng Jixing wore the armor of the white-robed Imperial Guards and looked very spirited. They guarded Qin Yin on her left and right, while Tang Xiaoxi spurred her horse and walked side by side with Lin Muyu. In front of them, a group of light cavalry acted as sentries and left the city in a grandiose manner. Even Lin Muyu did not have the time to return to the Divine Hall to pack her luggage. However, as long as she had the Burning Prairie sword, she would not need anything else. After sunset, they entered the dragon-seeking forest. As they were still at the periphery of the dragon-seeking forest, everyone was more relaxed. However, the night sky was filled with stars and the sounds of the insects coming from the forest made them feel more relaxed and happy. Next to the white tent, Lin Muyu carried the Burning Prairie sword and stepped into the bushes. She looked around but did not see any luminous herbs. It was impossible for there to be luminous night grass at such a close distance to Lanyan City. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.